Welcome to the Post-Game Spread podcast. For those of you that have already been with us, welcome back. For our new listeners, let me introduce myself, welcome you, and explain what this podcast is all about. My name is Blake Helm. I'm a firefighter, veteran, and former pro baseball player myself. I had a wild journey through baseball that, to put it in a nutshell, let's just say I had some tools and some promise. I played some D1 baseball. I had 5 surgeries in college. Could not stay on the field, and it was an absolute battle to come back every time. After college ended for me, I ended up walking away and joining the military. I was done with baseball. Served my 4 years in the military, and towards the end, I kept having these dreams that I had to finish this. I had to have my vision quest and play pro baseball, and that to speed this up, I was playing wiffle ball with some buddies. Turned into playing in a men's league, turns into playing for the U.S. military all-star baseball team, turns into trying out and making a reality show with Cal Ripken as the host called The Player that never aired. The winner was supposed to get a contract with the Orioles, and that turned into bouncing around indie ball with mixed results, some good, some bad for a couple years, and then it all ended with a fastball dotting me in the temple, and I had post-concussion syndrome for 6 months. So an absolute crazy ride, and through all of that, I learned a lot about myself, a lot about life, and how to overcome. And I had a chance to go on my buddy's podcast a year or two ago and tell my story. And it was so therapeutic and fun and awesome to give thanks to all these people that helped me along the way. I think baseball is such a great teacher of life and life lessons if you pay attention. So from there, I thought, I want to do my own podcast. I want to give back to the baseball community in my own way and be a part of it. And I want to help guys tell their stories, their unique stories and their journeys through baseball and what they learned along the way, and help them, pass along their knowledge. Because what good is knowledge if we don't pass it along? So I've been going back and talking with former pros with interesting stories, talking with their parents, their friends, their teams, their coaches, their managers to get context, to get clips, to get quotes. And it's really been a celebration of someone's career and what they went through. It's somewhere between podcast and biography. It's positive. It's a celebration. I think we really have something here that's special, and I'd love for it to grow organically, whereas one door opens another door, and we keep opening up to new guests here. So I would love for this to reach, pros with great stories, big leagues, minor league guys. So if anyone is out there listening, you think you have a great story, or someone you played with has a great story, and you want to get in touch with us and be a part of this, be on it, my email is thepostgamespread@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from people. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your time. A little disclaimer before we get rolling here. You're about to hear some ads. They are all from local entities that want to support the baseball community. A lot of these guys have deep connections. We're players themselves, so if you see having a need for any one of these services, please go patronize these guys. Thank you. Today's episode is brought to you by Jason Knoedler and the Bank of Springfield. I will be the first to tell you that I am not the most literate person financially, but I do know people, and I know that the Bank of Springfield has invested in a lot of people that I know and trust. They have invested heavily in former local area athletes and baseball players. Off the top of my head, I can think of, Jason Knoedler, Justin Knoedler, Eric Weaver, Tim Wallen, Greg Morantz, Frank Stefano, Murph Mathiet, Ryan Murphy. These are all guys that I know and trust and would have no problems putting my financial future in their hands. And so Bank of Springfield is always involving themselves in local charities and the community, and talks about being a family. So if you're going to put your money somewhere, take it to Bank of Springfield. These are guys you can trust. We are also brought to you by 226 Sports, located at 3604 North Peoria Road, 217-670-1609. Springfield info at turn2outs.com. Multiple entities under this umbrella. Turn 2 training, which is team or individual instruction. Teams can come in and rent it out, or an individual can come in and get instruction from a top-of-the-line instructor. There's the Extreme Baseball and Softball Club, run by my buddy Kyle Welch. They have 9U all the way up to 17U teams, and Washco Strength and Speed, one of our other sponsors. We are officially backing this entity, and it's because of Kyle Welch. I love this guy. I love his passion. I love his knowledge. I love his vision. He's an absolute baseball dude. He knows hitting. Like I said, he has a vision to grow this into what Springfield deserves, and that's a top-of-the-line facility to help young ball players progress. I believe in Kyle as a person and as a leader of young men. Go see 226 Sports. We are also brought to you by Jared Washko of Washko Strength and Speed, located at 3604 North Peoria Road, 217-899-3233, WashcoStrengthandSpeed.com. I think Jared is the premier trainer for youth athletics in the Springfield area, specifically baseball and softball. He is on it, from his training modalities to his throwing programs to speed to getting stronger to getting faster. The proof is in the pudding. Jared cranks out athletes at high levels that go on to the collegiate levels. Go see Jared for all your strength and speed needs. We are also brought to you by Cardinal Cleaning. They can be reached at cardinalcleaningonline.com and 217-679-6567. The owner-operator, Adam Springer, local baseball dude, family friend, stand out at Chatham Glenwood in the mid-'90s. Also had a stellar career at Rend Lake and Kentucky Wesleyan. Cardinal Cleaning can take care of any cleaning needs you have. Home, business, restaurant, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever you need, they can take care of you. Get a hold of Cardinal Cleaning. They'll do the rest. We are also brought to you by Eric Easley of the real estate team of the group. He can be reached at 217-971-3256, theeasleysalesteam.com. Eric was a shortstop quarterback combo back at Southeast in the mid-'90s, a standout baseball player at Western Illinois University, and a local ump while I was coming up. Always really liked this guy. Go see Eric for all your real estate needs. We appreciate you, brother.
I'm ready. Rock and roll.
Well, here we go. We are back with another episode of the post-game spread. Couldn't be more pumped, more excited to tell you that we're going to do the Justin Knoedler story. I've got JU sitting next to me right here. If you know how we get down, I've got a lot of stuff to go through before I even let him talk here. So let me take a deep breath. I'm your host, Blake Helm. This is the post-game spread where we help guys tell their story. We go back, piece by piece, how'd they get there, what they learned along the way. We help them write the last chapter and close the book, get some closure. So some background on my man here. This is one half of the famous K-team with their powers combined. They are the K-team. A 1998 Springfield High School grad where you starred in football and baseball. Drafted in the 41st round by the Cardinals out of high school. Moving on to Lincoln Land Community College, where you were named the D2 JUCO Player of the Year in 2000, where you set the single-season home run record, which still stands. Also, number 1 in career home runs, number 2 in career RBIs, also winning the national championship that year, the famous 2000 team. Drafted for the second time in the 13th round in 2000, decided to go to Miami of Ohio instead. Later, a 2010 Hall of Fame inductee with the Loggers. Like I said, moving on to Miami of Ohio, where you actually ended up pitching. After breaking your hamate bone, drafted in the 5th round, spent your first year in pro ball pitching before going on and having a 10-year pro career with 3 separate stints in the big leagues with the Giants in 04, 05, 06, 6 different organizations before a concussion scrambled up your marbles there, and that was kind of when it was time to hang them up. Came home after that, moving on, became the hardest working man in Springfield, where you were working from sun up to sundown as a personal trainer, assistant coach at Lincoln Land. You coached travel teams, gave lessons, and eventually you kind of landed at BOS, one of our sponsors. Who I talked to for these interviews, I teed it up for you here, man. I went back and talked to all these amazing people from your background. Mama Mia, Teresa Kay, one of my favorite people. Great conversation with her. Jason Knoedler, other half of the K team, your twin brother, 6th round draft pick of the Tigers, former guest, drafted in 2001, now your boss. Ryan O'Malley, teammates on the 2000 team, former guest, former big leaguer, one of your best buds. Frank Stefano, Frank the Tank, love that guy. Teammate at Lincoln Land, former pro himself, current coworker at BOS. Ryan Murphy, teammate at Lincoln Land Community College, absolute stud at SLU from Plains, now your coworker at BOS. Jim Steinwart, head coach at Springfield High School, recent state champ within the past few years. The man, the myth, the legend, Claude Krasik, the Logger logo, the former Logger skipper, ISU Hall of Famer, all things, LLCC. Ron Big Bull, Big Bull, the dad. We spoke with him. We also talked to Ron Little Bull, or Bull, the longtime LLCC head coach, former SHS grad, played ball at Coastal Carolina. Big Bull, the sage old grandpa, all things LLCC. Tracy Smith, the current head coach at Michigan, University of Michigan, but you're a skipper at the Miami of Ohio back in the day. Dan Ortmeyer, longtime teammate with the Giants, former big leaguer. Dude is a current firefighter, and let me give kudos to this guy. One of the best firefighter mustaches I have seen in a long time. This guy has awesome follicles, so shout out to – I'm a firefighter as well, so I appreciate a good mustache. Ryan Aper, he played under you at Lincoln Land, 2013 JUCO Player of the Year, 6th-round pick of the Marlins in 13. We talked to Mitch Trees, SHG grad, 11th-round pick of the Reds in 2014, former pro, the Karate Kid to your Mr. Miyagi. That's how we talked, or that's who I talked to get context, clips, and quotes. How I know you. This is special for me. I've been knowing you for a long time, bud. I remember first getting acquainted with you at the SHS baseball camps in the summer back in the day. And I think you guys are about 5-6 years older than me. And then, I became close with your younger brother, Joey, one of my best friends. And then eventually kind of you, Jason, and O'Malley took me under your wing and let me kind of tag along with you guys when I was trying to do my thing in baseball and make it. And, I need to take this moment to tell you thank you for that. It was such a pivotal moment in my life where I needed some guys like you. And probably the biggest thing I took away from you guys was work ethic and learning how to work. And that's one of my big things to this day. People know me for my work ethic, and I have to thank you because it was a direct reflection of you and being around you and seeing how you did things and being like, okay, this is how it's done. I need to match this. And everyone knows about the K-Team hustle. It's famous, your work ethic. So thank you for imparting some of that on me. Forever grateful. Interesting parts to the story before we get in. I know I'm being long-winded here. It's fascinating. Hopefully we find more, and we've already talked to Jason, so not much of a child phenom. You weren't supposed to be in the big leagues when you were 10 years old. No one thought that. You guys were small. You didn't play travel ball till high school, didn't really grow until high school. Jason said, kids are like popcorn. You never know when they're going to pop, and you guys took a little bit to pop. You weren't some 4-year starter in high school. You had a strong junior and senior year career, but it wasn't Jason Worth, or something like that. Drafted 3 times. Not many can say that. 2000 Natty Champ, Natty Player of the Year. The handbrake, I can't wait to get into that. And your first year in pro ball, and you absolutely shoved. What it's like, to be on the verge of the big leagues, to taste it, to get to see it, and then not quite stick. I'm fascinated by that. The concussion at the end, seeing different organizations. I don't know how you did all the jobs you did when you came back and baseball was done. That was incredible. You were the hardest worker you made in Springfield. This guy's one of the best athletes I've ever seen. I mean, the amount of things that I've seen you do are just ridiculous. I mean, thunder dunking. No one ever gives you credit for how fast you are. I mean, you're like a step behind Jason you were back in the day. Strong, lean, explosive, the power, the arm. I remember when you broke your hammock bone, you came back and you hit BP with us one day at Schlitt, my group of friends, and you hit a home run one-handed because you only had one hand. And that was always like, this guy's Superman. I remember one time at Lincoln Land, you said, watch this. And you were at the other side of the gym. And you said, look at this outlet cover. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah, I do.
And you exploded it across the gym. I mean, it was an outlet cover. And it's just incredible, And finally, you hit a home run in the Legends game when you come back at a retirement recently. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You got to hang him up after that, right?
That's right.
That's a wrap.
Right. I'm done.
Okay, all right, man. So I've given this guy some credit here. Justin, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, man. I've been excited to do this for a while. We've been talking about it, and you do a great job, man. I've listened to several of the podcasts. I haven't listened to all of them just yet, but I'm excited. And you've already said quite a bit. I'm so blessed to have each and every one of these people in my life that have taken the time to say a few nice words or to tell their parts of where we've had time to reflect and talk to each one of them. But Yeah, but thank you for the kind words that you said about us. Baseball is one big family, man, and you were part of it, and we're still family. So it's
I love it.
Let's dive into this thing, man.
Let's dive into it. Yeah, it was so fun getting to go back and talk to some of these people that I already talked with Jason about. I said from the start, you guys always get lumped together. It's Jason and Justin, but you guys' careers deserve their own spotlight separately, so that's how I went about it. Let's start growing up in the Knoedler house, 136 North State Street with the green turf porch. The open door policy, everyone is welcome. John and Teresa, mom being the athlete, dad being the computer nerd, Teresa's words. I'd love to just hear kind of like what your thoughts were about growing up as a twin, Little League, all that stuff, the neighborhood.
Growing up was awesome, man. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. We had a great neighborhood, old school neighborhood. Everybody played, everybody got along, outside all the time, pretty much forced to be outside. Just anything that we could do. If we weren't playing baseball and tearing up base paths in the front yard, we were playing basketball back, when it was raining behind the garage. We ended up having a fort in our backyard, so we'd play, hide and seek and things like that, and kick the can. And State Street had so many kids, and that we were so blessed to have the childhood that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And sports just kind of migrated as part of that. It wasn't something that it was a main focus, not like it is today. I mean, if you're not doing competitive sports at 5 or 6 years old today, you're behind.
Right.
You're behind.
Isn't that crazy?
And we just played recreational leagues,
Right.
whatever it was, the Springfield Southwest baseball or whatever. And my parents, did everything they could to give us what we needed, and some things that we wanted, but didn't grow up with silver spoons in our mouth, and we just played. Just played everything we could possibly play, and I look back and I would not change one thing about my childhood. Man, we great kids, the Romang boys across the street, the Sunleys, and several others that kind of faded away out of the neighborhood. But just a great childhood growing up.
Yeah, and I want to highlight this again, and it's so cool because you just talked about travel ball, and people think they're behind the 8 ball if they're not on the elite travel team when they're 6 years old and they're on this trajectory. But you and Jason were never on that trajectory. You were rec ball kids.
Yeah.
Right?
We'd sign up just like every other kid would need to sign up for the rec league, but it was always like, hey, we're a package deal.
Yeah.
If you wanted one of them, you had to take both.
And it continued on like that for a long time, all the way till pro ball.
Well, it just makes things easier on family. I don't know how you would split up twins, and with everything else today. I mean, families do it. One twin may like baseball and the other one doesn't, so I guess you figure it out. But to make things easier, the league's always, accommodated that. Right. And I'm glad they did, because to this day, Jason's still the best teammate I ever had. And, we got to play from 4 or 5 year old T-ball all the way up through college ball, and got to play in pro ball together, not as teammates necessarily, but journeyed all the way through.
Now, Jason said, I remember in his podcast that like he wasn't like, I'm going to play pro ball from day one. Like, when did you feel like you started falling in love with the game? Or
I remember we were cleaning out the old house, a few years ago when my mom finally decided to move, and we saw these pictures, like of the fake Sports Illustrated photos, and Jason being the Cardinals jersey and I'd be in the Cubs jersey, and we were probably 7 or 8 years old, and maybe you had a little bit of glimpse, in your eye, or maybe you had a little thought in your head, oh, this would be cool to play pro ball someday. But, even when I was in high school, I didn't think it was a reality until I got the phone call when I got drafted. And I know we'll get into that, but never once did I think that it was a reality. I just love to play the game, but I also love to play basketball. And we got into golf a little bit at a young age with our grandma. Our grandma would take us to the golf range and we'd play a little bit. And, baseball was always number one, though. It was just we had our, just like most kids growing up, we had our base paths in the front yard, and we dented car doors and we broke windows and things like that in the old neighborhood, and we'd all go scrambling. But baseball was always number one. But as far as thinking about big league dreams or anything like that, it really didn't come till much later. It was just love to play the game. So
now, what can you speak at all about how close are you and Jason? Do you feel like you can think what he's thinking, anticipate what he's thinking, read each other? Like, where are you guys at on that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we do have a lot of the same thoughts. I mean, certainly we do have a few differences, but I mean, gosh, it's almost eerie how similar we are. I think I was telling you a story off air. He leaves work today about 4:30 or something. I have no idea where he's going. He walks right by my office.
Yeah.
And I leave about 15 minutes behind him. and we both end up at the same place. We're at the gym, sneaking in a workout, and sure as heck, we get in there, we do the same thing. We both hit the steam room to get a little sweat in, and so we just all think alike. And we've had several people, in the community here, if we're at the same party, and I'll go up and talk to somebody, and I'll tell them a story, and then they'll be like, "Didn't you just tell me that?" I'm like, "No, you just talked to my brother over there." But, and so we do have a lot of similarities,
Yeah.
and I think it's cool. We are working together now, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Your mom shared a really cool story with me about one of you breaking your arm when you were little kids. Remember this?
Yeah. So Jason broke his arm.
Okay, here it is. Then.
Yeah.
You ready for it?
Yep.
It's called One Brain. This is Teresa, Mama Kay.
Oh, absolutely. There was a time when we had to take, we had to take one of them to the hospital. I think it was Jason. He broke his wrist. And so my mom came over and stayed with Justin. I could have this backwards. But anyway, the other one, the one that was at home, stood at the window crying in pain.
Oh, no.
Holding his arm.
What?
So, yeah. Until the other one came home. I think it was Jason that broke his arm.
Are you kidding me? Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
And Justin felt the pain, so.
Hey, felt the pain.
It is. I mean, Jason and I are very close, and so I think it's just it's a special brotherly love that's even probably hard to explain. We're always there for each other, even when we're not.
Right.
So he knows that if he needs me, I'm going to be there, and I know the same. So it's just something that's very, very special, and we'll never not have it.
Yeah. Your mom shared something with me that I did not know. Even when I talked to Jason previously, and she said that maybe around like the 6th, 7th, 8th grade, right before high school, that you actually might have got an invite to like the Flame or what was the Saints, but Jason didn't get that invite, and you guys were ride or die, and you decided we're staying together. So that
I think it's always I was always a catcher. When I started catching, and I don't even really remember when that took hold. It was probably around 10 years old or so. I think I would always throw the gear on just like most kids, but yeah, I think I got invited to maybe partake and help out with the Saints because they needed a catcher.
Yeah, and
it was just like, well, if Jason's not coming, I don't want to do it. What the heck do I want to do that for?
That's cool, man.
And so we weren't. Maybe we were a little envious of those travel teams at some point, but it wasn't until we got on the Junior Pride when we were 15 that we realized, okay, how good these teams really are and how competitive baseball really was.
For sure. Jason's got a little clip about this. It was really cool how he worded it. So here we go. Jason playing travel ball with my bro.
Yeah, no, it did. I mean, the only other comment I would probably say is that Justin probably evolved a little quicker than me, and so like when travel teams really started to really start to take off, there was the Flame, there was the Saints. I mean, I remember Justin got asked to be on one of those travel teams way before little twin brother did. So I mean, he was really? Asked, but he's my ride or die. So like he was always like, no, if it's not going to be both of us, I don't need to go play on that travel team. I'm playing with my bro. So
I love that, and that rang true at Lincoln Land, at Miami of Ohio, and like you guys, the K team stays together.
You can joke about it, and some of our buddies would give us a hard time about the K team thing and our license plate. But
wait, did you guys have a K team license plate?
Oh yeah, we had
remember that.
We had a K team license plate. K team 5. That was the original K team.
Right.
So you can imagine what 13, 14-year-old punk boys, and friends that would try to make fun of you. How they would interpret K team. But we had great friends growing up. But it wasn't. Jason and I wanted to stay together. We wanted to play together. It was easier on us. It was easier on our parents, family. Like I said, it wasn't going to work for mom to run me somewhere, dad to run somewhere, and then we had a younger brother. So it just made sense for us to stay together. And baseball's baseball. No matter where you play, it's the same game. It's the same game no matter where you're playing. Some's a little bit better, a little more competitive.
Yeah.
But no matter what, it's the same game. Just gets a little faster as you get through the ranks. So.
Well said. Jason actually I got one more clip to play of Jason here on him kind of wondering how it would have been if you guys maybe had gone your different ways. Let's go. Jason, here you go. I often think.
I often think about if we would have not been as close, kind of growing up and making that commitment to play together, where we would have ended up later in life. Because I mean, he probably did have some opportunities to go play at other places, but it wasn't one of those things that we ever really like sat down and decided. It was just, man, we just felt right. It felt good to like make sure that we played together for our parents, and I mean, we played better together. So
I love that.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that it would have been the same. I don't know that I would have been as motivated.
Yeah.
You know, Jason to this day holds me accountable, and I feel like I hold him accountable too.
You
know,
guys do hold each other accountable.
He is my boss, but I know he knows that when he's having a tough day at work, he's got somebody that he can come vent to or whatever, and so I you know, I'm sure we'll get into the progression of, you know, how things evolve, but you know, 6 years I was coaching and this and that, and he was working for the bank when I was done. And to be honest with you, I wish I just would have joined the bank 6 years before that. Now, not to take away, I had some great experiences coaching and whatnot, but so I don't want to take that away. But you know, just we're a great team. We work well together. We've got each other's backs, and we feed well off each other.
You guys do, and like you guys are. I mean, you guys will be honest with each other, and like I remember you guys chirping each other, like, you know, get your head out of your butt type of stuff. You guys will talk to each other in a very real way. That's brotherly love. All
the time. Jason was a little more vocal, telling me to get my head out of my rear several times. I don't know that I was quite as vocal with Jason on some things, but you know, you could just kind of give him a look and say, "Come on, man," you know. But Jason was a little bit more enthusiastic, a little more rah-rah, and then I would just be like, "Okay, I'm going to motivate Jason and get him going by hitting a home run or getting a hit or something like that. Doing my job." Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're kind of rolling. So, a pretty normal little league experience, rec ball, playing some other sports there, normal childhood.
Oh yeah, we had great help growing up through those leagues. I mean, I remember
Southwest.
You know, my dad always helped out, and then my dad finally realized, I think it was around 10 or 11 years old, where he brought in Dave Venable, or Dave Venable was helping, which is a good friend of my dad's. Yeah. And my dad knew that he wasn't going to take us any further. I mean, he was always there to help, and he was the guy that was willing to put in the time. But you know, Dave Venable actually had a little more baseball knowledge and what have you, and so we played for some teams. I think we played for Riser Construction and, you know, some of those other teams that we had. I can't remember all the team names. I just know Tim Riser. The Risers were next door neighbors, so we got the sponsorship. So was proud to put the Riser Construction name on my back. So. Yeah.
So then you know what? Before we move on, I've got some Mamma Mia quotes. So I had a nice chat with Mamma Mia. We're actually at Mamma Mia's house right now. We're in her basement.
The only quiet place we could find without the Rugrats.
Justin's got young ones, and I've got young ones, and there's just a madhouse at both of our places. So we're convening here, and
it feels right. She fed me too before we started.
Hey, full service here. This is Mamma Mia, Teresa K. Justin might have been a little more driven and slightly bigger. Other than that, they were best friends, always together. You know, had the same friends, did the same things. Twins but different, but still the same. I already did the broken arm story. It's touching. They always pushed each other. They wanted each other to succeed. John would be asking after a bad game, "Why didn't you play well? Is it your girlfriend? School? What's the problem?" So, like, hey, anytime I'm doing quotes, if you want to jump in and give more context.
Jason got some of those girlfriend questions more than I did, because Jason had a more serious girlfriend, you know, there in high school first. Before, I think he was the first one to have a serious girlfriend out of the two of us. But yeah, I don't think Dad ever played at a very competitive level. You know, he played a little bit of sports growing up, but
he didn't quite get it.
I don't think he quite get it. You know, that there's failures and there's
a reason for this,
trials and tribulations to get through. And so yeah, but that was funny. But yeah, we were thick as thieves, man. We did everything.
Man, this is perfect. We got a John thing. So your dad, rest in peace. What a great man. Passed away about 6 years ago. We've got a bunch of funny context from your mom here. I've got to bring this up. This is hilarious, I think. Your mom gave me a funny clip about your dad kind of busting your balls about not answering the phone and things like that. So let me start off. I'm going to play it, and then I've got some things to kind of jump on after that. Here we go. John, no answer.
When they would do that to their dad, he would threaten to shut off their phone. John would call him. If they didn't call him right back, he'd call him again. They'd call him again. And then he'd call and leave a message and say, "You don't call me back, I'm going to shut your phone off."
That is amazing.
Like they didn't have anything else to do but call their dad back. And he would say, this is your dad, John.
Terrific.
100% true.
And here, this is going to be a totally positive podcast. I've got to get into your ribs here a little bit. I've got to ask you a question. Why are the Knoedler, and you've been awesome leading up to this, you've been great at communication. Why are the Knoedler brothers so bad at returning texts?
We're pretty bad. We are pretty bad. You know, some of the time is I get the text and I don't know how I want to respond, and then I completely forget.
Yeah.
Joey thinks that I'm the worst, but I think
Joe's the worst.
I think he's the worst.
I think Joe's the worst.
I don't know. It's a blessing and a curse to be able to do text messaging.
I've got a funny quote from Ryan Aper, and it's totally tongue in cheek, and you know that Ryan Aper loves you, thinks so much of you, mentor. But so before I say that, I'm going to butter you up a little bit. So Ryan made a joke to me one time in a text message, and he said, if I ever wanted to start a personal journal that I knew no one would ever see, I could spill my darkest, deepest stuff into, and no one would ever see it, I would start a text message with Justin.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
No, going back to Dad, man. My dad was funny because if he had a good game, he wanted to tell you good job. You know,
that's cool.
And if you had a bad game, he wanted to maybe boost you up or say everything okay. You're doing all right. But he just didn't. I don't think he quite grasped that. Okay, you're gonna have highs and lows.
Yeah.
And I was always pretty easy at just kind of riding the wave, man. Yeah. You got into a bad funk, you had to find a way to get out of it.
Yeah.
But I always knew if I needed a little boost of confidence, I'd call my mama.
Dude, I can remember being over at your house when you were called up, and your dad being like sitting in that back computer room and being a nervous wreck.
Oh yeah.
And just being like pacing the house. And just so invested in it. So,
he never missed a game. Matter of fact, that first year that we got called up, I was on the West Coast. Jason was on the East Coast. So he could get both games in. He'd be back there in that chair for a good 6 or 7 hours.
He would, man. It was so cool. I loved it. They've always been there for each other. They're their worst critics, biggest cheerleaders. I wasn't ready for them to go when you guys left. I don't think they were ready to go either while you guys stayed at Lincoln Land. And it was so much fun. We knew the kids, the parents. It was a great community. We would go to spring training in Arizona. John would drive out their cars to them when you guys, when the season was started, when you guys were in Pro Bowl. I remember that.
Yep.
You at one point, you had you started off with the Explorer, right?
Yeah, Eddie Bauer Explorer, yeah.
And then dumped that on Mom and Dad.
Oh, yeah.
And then got the Avalanche.
The Avalanche.
Woo!
Missed the Avalanche.
That thing was sweet.
Love the Avalanche.
Man, I remember.
They're bringing the Avalanche back.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
I remember we used to have all your baseball stuff back there. When you would open that trunk, it was like a sunbeam came out of there. It was like beautiful bats and gloves and baseball equipment, and like there was the whole shrine back there.
I was a equipment junkie, to say it in a nice way.
And thanks again, because this dude always kept me in equipment. I always had like the freshest Mizuno batting gloves and bats, and you always kept me stocked up.
I'd get my hands on whatever I could.
It was awesome, man. I loved it. Let's see. Seeing him play in St. Louis was so exciting. Let's see. I've got a few clips later that I'm going to play on your call-ups and things like that, but I'm saving them. Listened to every game they could on the internet. So proud of them. I've got some more clips a little bit later, but that's kind of running through some of our Teresa K here, and
just to recap the Little League thing. I mean,
Sure.
It was a great Little League experience. I mean, we had a great time. I mean, and I remember playing against the Capital City Sluggers, and it was Randy Rice's team.
Randy Rice,
and so
man, what an athlete!
Literally, we'd be playing against this team, and it was Carl Suter was the coach, and Josh was on the team, which Josh played basketball and little baseball at Springfield High, but. And I don't even remember who else was on that team. All I do is remember is Randy Rice would hit 3 home runs a game against us, and we were like, "What do we have to do to beat? We can't beat these guys." Every time he came up, he'd hit one in the trees at Charlotte Park, and we're like, and they ended up going to the state tournament. That's what you did back then. You played your rec league, and a couple of kids from our team would always get picked up maybe to go to the state tournament. And I don't remember if I got picked up to do that or not, but some things are not so clear these days.
Yeah, I love hearing you and O'Malley and Jason talk about Randy Rice. That guy is a legend.
Yes.
What an athletic phenom. Do you think he could have played some pro baseball had that been his path, or he'd focused on that, right?
Yeah, I thought baseball and football were 2 better sports than the sport he chose in basketball. But you got a passion, and if you want to go play basketball, go play basketball, which he did. But with his speed and athleticism, playing playing cornerback or even a wide out on the football field, and then baseball, speed doesn't slump. So he would have found a way to probably have some success.
Did he play football in high school?
Oh yeah,
he did.
Yeah, he was a receiver. We ran some reverse sweeps with him. I mean, he could fly.
And that was when you guys had Rusky spinning it, boy.
He could absolutely fly.
You guys were strong in football.
Yeah.
All right, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
When you guys got to high school, Mr. Vorak called you runts. The PE teacher everyone loves. How big were you guys? Do you remember when you got in high school?
You know what? I tried.
How big were you?
I tried to think about my driver's license when I was 16. I think I was 160 pounds. So maybe not quite that heavy, but we didn't really grow till after our sophomore year.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's. We turned 16 after our sophomore year, so we were not.
You guys were young for your grade,
yeah,
right?
we were not.
Right.
Yeah, very young. We graduated at 17.
Wow.
We were not very big. We went out for football as freshmen. Jason and I never played organized football a day in our life. All we did was mess around in the neighborhood. We had no idea what the positions were, where the pads went. We didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And so we go out and we lasted 2 weeks, and we decided, look, this isn't for us.
Yeah.
We're getting our butt kicked. I remember one of the upperclassmen, we're just doing some type of 2-minute drill, and he was showing off, and he was just running by me, punching me in the helmet. and then we got to the end line or the sideline, and he knocked me on my rear. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm just getting my brains beat in for no reason. And he was just trying to toughen me up. I get it now. But so we ended up dropping it, and going to play golf.
Yeah.
We came back to football our junior year after we grew.
Right. Yeah.
I maybe regret if I have any regrets, I probably regret not sticking with football freshman and sophomore year. But we got to play golf and we got to do some other things. So you can't have everything.
Yeah. I mean, you got great size, and I wonder if you hadn't been so talented at baseball, if you could have made a run at football. I mean, you played tight end. Some?
Yeah, I played a little split end and tight end, a little outside linebacker at the end there. And, I got recruited to play a little football, actually. Illinois College McMurray.
Fast, big, strong. That makes sense to me.
And so, that would have been fun. But it was I wasn't in love with any type of school, to be honest with you. So if sports wouldn't have been there, I probably would have gone a military route, to be honest with you. Yeah. But you just never know. Sports obviously took over.
Sure. And you played some freshman and some JV ball. When did you first get called up to varsity? Can you remember?
Yeah, sophomore year.
Sophomore.
Yeah,
a little bit, right? It wasn't
so
even
freshman year baseball. I mean, we had all the same kids that we had kind of played, growing up with in some of the little leagues. And so, but I remember it was me. I was catching. I think David Ewert was another catcher. I wasn't even the starting catcher on the freshman team. And
really?
I didn't, and I did not.
Nuts.
I did not hit well. I didn't play great. I mean, I always had some raw talent. I could always run a little bit. And
Jason said you hit 1something as a freshman. He made fun of you forever.
I think we could probably dig it up from Steinwert. It was under 100. It was .085 or something like that. And so my friends would always make fun of me. And so they're like, "You hit 85?" I'm like, "No, man, that was my radar gun speed." But no, I didn't hit well. But I didn't have that many. I don't think I had that many at bats.
Yeah.
Either.
Right.
So yeah, all I played freshman year was freshman baseball. I didn't get any JV time that I recall.
Wow.
And then as a sophomore, I don't even remember who the varsity catcher would have been, but I got called up at some point in the middle of the season, and I remember one of the first games I caught, they tried stealing, and I threw like 3 guys out. And I remember some of the seniors were like, "Whoa, this is awesome! You're hosing everybody." And
yeah. I
didn't even know if I had a proper technique, to be honest with you. I just exchanged it and threw it as hard as I could down second base.
Right.
And eventually that evolved. But
yeah, absolutely.
One thing that did kind of help me, when you get into high school, you're just kind of just seeing everything, And Steinwert was always good at the baseball. He had the baseball bulletin board. He had things.
Yeah, that was great.
And the catcher that came through Springfield High before me was Scott Jarvis, and he was a stud.
Absolute stud.
And
yeah. You played Georgia?
I never really got to see Jarvis play.
Okay, he was.
I just knew that he was the picture on all the bulletin boards and the posters, and maybe that's when I feel like, okay, I want to be that guy. I mean, maybe that's I really cool. think that's probably when it clicked. Like, okay, Scott Jarvis is the talk of the town, as far as catchers at Springfield High. I want to be him.
For those of you that don't know, Coach Jim Steinwert used to have this board in the middle hallway in Springfield High, and he would put all kinds of interesting things up there, like pictures and quotes and things about former players moving on and practice schedule, and just it was really cool. And he also put together these, very detailed booklets at the season's end that would had all kinds of articles and games and your stats, and it was just a labor of love. And shout out to Coach Steinwert, is awesome.
Absolutely, things that looking back you really appreciate.
Yeah, but not at the time. You didn't.
No, because we were dumb. We were dumb high school kids that thought we knew it all.
Yeah, you're like, whatever. I gotta go check the board today. But it's like, man, he did. That's so much extra and like.
But
awesome.
The discipline of having to check the board for practice times.
We did.
And all
Quarter
that
of the
stuff.
day.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And in practice, he'd ask you what was on the board today. What was it?
Right.
And he'd put messages on there. But it was all about just discipline, learning.
Yes.
Being responsible. Right. And so things that you look back and be like, man, I learned more from Coach Steinwert than he probably realizes. Yeah. Things that I appreciate. And I think Coach might have been a little ahead of his time. I think the kids today that I see that are playing in some of these leagues, they need some of that in their lives. They need more discipline and organization and things like that.
Well said.
So.
And I know he's kind of hard on himself sometimes about being, somewhat of a disciplinarian back in the day. And I think he's kind of softened around the edges some a little bit.
Well, why I think he might have been a little ahead of his time is because back then parents really disciplined their kids, and I'm not saying they don't discipline their kids now. But back then, and it was the 90s.
Yeah.
I know Mother Teresa and my dad.
Harder coaching.
I got disciplined at home. Like I knew I was, we were being trained to be good individuals and good people by our parents.
Yeah.
And Coach Steinwert had that as part of one of our goals to raise good young men and individuals. And maybe some people didn't have that same influence in their lives like we had our mom and dads. But today, I think that's what a lot of the kids need. I don't think they're getting the same type of discipline. Not to go off on the rant like that, but
no,
I just know I think he was a little ahead of his time, and I know I always appreciated all those things that Coach did.
I love that.
I didn't like carrying my own binder, but again, I didn't know what I didn't know. You know how many guys carried a binder around in pro ball? Several. They were taking notes of their at bats, the pitchers they faced.
Right.
Whatever the case may be, they were taking binders, making notes, and
for sure.
He was ahead of all that.
I love it. It's awesome. Shout out to Coach Steinwert.
Absolutely,
still doing it.
Yeah, I enjoyed my high school career. I really did. We sophomore year you got thrown into varsity. I got thrown into varsity, and we had a little success there. And Mark Nunn was a senior that year.
Stud,
got to catch him.
Man.
Trying to think of some of the players that were around, and then junior year, here we are, junior, and we got a really big junior class, and we struggled. We went our junior year at Springfield High. We went 14 and 21 or 14 and 22. Yeah. I mean, that was a year we struggled big time. We should not have been that bad.
Were Timmy Wallen and Greg Taylor on that team?
They were freshmen.
Yeah, they pitched a lot for you guys.
I think they had to, but we still had Scheffler and Rusky and some other guys. Yeah. But we just underperformed, and so by the time we became seniors. I think the seniors all had a meeting with Coach Steinwert. We changed a few things, and obviously had a very successful senior year. But high school career was great. It all started with Jamie Stash and Mark Hale.
Love Jamie.
We had Brett Trumper around.
Yeah.
Brad Owens was around. Brad Owens.
Yeah, played pro ball.
He played pro ball, but he was helping out with the softball team at the time.
Okay.
And I was like, what are we doing over there with the softball team?
Right.
Get over here and play with the boys. And I do remember Stash was hilarious.
Man,
Stash was great.
If you don't know Stash, you've been around him. It's an experience.
I still talk to Jamie Stash quite a bit, and he's since moved to South Carolina. But we try to go fishing every year down in Kentucky with some guys. But I remember we lost to Griffin our freshman year. And the next day at practice, we're at Vredenburg Park is where we practice.
Yeah.
And he comes to practice, and he put a chew in.
He always had a chew in.
And he did, and he probably wasn't supposed to at a high school sporting event, but he had a chew in, and he pulls us all to the side, and he's thinking about his thoughts, and he's like, "You guys see this right here in my mouth?" He goes, "#1 Cardinal sin in baseball. But if we ever effing lose to Griffin again, you guys are gonna be running laps around this park for days or something like that." And he let us have it, and because the Springfield Griffin rivalry was what it was all about, and he wanted to instill that in us as freshmen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but no, he was great, and Stash was a heck of a ball player. Watching him just throw the ball around, and his hands were great. His hands were huge.
Paws on him, didn't he?
And he could hit. one of my favorite memories of Stash and Brad Owens.
Let's go.
You know, now my mind's just kind of going all over the place right now.
That's what it's for.
But we're at a SHS baseball camp in the summer.
Yeah.
And we're at Schlip Park on their big field there.
Those are special.
And we had a little downtime or whatever. And Stash and Owens is at second base, Stash is at shortstop. And I can't remember who was hitting them ground balls, but those two were just turning double plays and just looking the smoothest. I mean, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because they said Brad Owens was a heck of an infielder and, you know, was on a stretch to get through the minor leagues and whatnot. And then he had some injuries, I think, too. But, yeah, it was a memory I'll never forget, watching those two just turn double plays. I'm like, what? So any chance I get, you know, people say, well, what do you miss? What do you miss about balls? Like, well, I miss catching. I miss just taking ground balls, turning double plays, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to get back in the box and try to hit to save my life. Forget that. But yeah, it was a cool story.
Jamie, man, I gotta throw a Jamie story on there too. Then remember at the Senator camp there was always like contests. Remember that was like.
Yeah.
How far could you throw it? There was a base running, there was a hitting, pitching, all kind of stuff. Anyway, Jamie was, you know, a counselor there or whatever, and I just one day after the long throw, we were like, "What can you do, Coach Dash?" You know, and with like no warm up, he just like turns around from home plate. If you're not familiar with Schlitt, down the right field line, there's Richardson Manufacturing Company warehouses, probably 50, 100 feet. I don't know. They're big warehouses beyond right field fence. It's 280 down the lines. Jamie turns around, no crow hop, just spins and lets it loose. Probably 370, 380. I mean, towering. An absolute bazooka.
Hose. Yeah, he had
crazy arm.
and
could hit. And if Jamie would always get his hacks if it was practice, you know.
Oh, yeah.
He was gonna. It was Jamie's turn sometimes.
I would have loved to have played with Coach Dash.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just that you could just tell he was a scrapper.
Yes.
You know, he was going to be that guy that you glad you had on your team, but you would have hated to play against.
One of my favorite guys in baseball. Love
I mean,
Coach Jamie Stash.
Well, he did the same thing when we were standing down the right field line at Lanphier Ballpark, Robin Roberts Stadium. And there was I got to be very careful how I word this here because I don't want to cuss on the podcast.
It's okay.
But he's on the right field foul line, and he chucks it over the scoreboard at Robin Roberts Stadium. And there was a park district worker there, and he goes, "Man, did you just see that?" He goes, "That dude just threw a mother effing home run." And you know, there was a little more color to it at the time, but it to this day I can't remember. I love that story. Like,
all right.
Threw it right over. He threw a home run.
Last one, and we're getting off Jamie Stash. I got to throw this last one. Hilarious. Jamie was my freshman coach at Springfield High. One time we just got hammered. I don't remember who beat us, but they beat us up real bad. We looked bad. Jamie is furious, and after the game, he's giving us his talk, and he's pacing around. He's like, "You know what?" He's like, "You guys are trying to make old Stashy look bad, huh? Trying to make me not get a head coaching job, huh?" We're just like,
yep, all about him. Yeah.
We're like trying not to laugh. All right, I'll get off Jamie Stash. Love the guy.
Yeah,
awesome.
Big influence in my young career.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Good to give all these guys gratitude that kind of helped you along your way. Junior year stats: 280, 1 home run.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing.
Not lighting the league on fire.
Nothing.
No.
And we had a tough junior year. I mean, we were at a bad place as a team. Just struggling. We couldn't get anything going, nothing right, for whatever reason. I'm sure I caught well. I don't know if I threw well, you know, guys out. But, yeah, it was across the board just a bad year for Springfield High Senators. I mean, It really was.
I've got a couple funny clips that I want to play. But your junior year would have been Jason Worth's senior year. So those of you that don't know, Jason Worth is from the area. He went to Chatham Glenwood, first-round pick, you know, went on to a storied big league career. He's the man. So he
I remember playing Chatham that year.
Bonkers senior year, and both Steinwart and Jason talked about a game that you played against him, and apparently scouts were wanting some velocity, so they brought in JU.
Yep.
And what was the result?
Well, there was 2, and I think the count might have been 3-1, and I just challenged Jason Worth with a fastball, and he hit it about 465 feet. And at least that's what it said in the paper the next day. I'm pretty sure they estimated it. You know, and this was at the old Glenwood Field, Chatham Glenwood Field, off the frontage road there.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. I look back at those scouts, and half of them got up and left. I mean, it was It was he had a double off the right field wall, I think, on a changeup earlier in the game. I was like, I think I might have had him 1-2, and I tried to throw a changeup, and he hit it off the right field wall. So, yeah, there wasn't much getting by him. I think he hit 730 that year.
It was just a year for the ages, just totally crazy.
And I did throw hard,
Yeah.
so I think that's why I was like, okay, I had a good arm. I didn't really pitch much at all,
right?
But I knew where it was going most of the time.
Yeah, Steiny said you were probably mid to like some upper 80s, kind of like.
Could have been.
And that was bringing it back then. I know maybe today that's not nearly the standard some people are looking for. I mean, kids now are throwing 90s in high school.
I honestly don't think I ever got clocked on a radar gun until Lincoln Land. Wow. I really don't.
I've got 2 funny clips that I want to play about the Jason Worth bomb. One is from your brother, one is from Steiny. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Jason.
Our junior year, we're playing Jason Worth's team out in Chatham. And that game, all the Orioles cross-checkers are there, all the scouts, and they wanted to see him face some velocity. And we wanted to beat Chatham anyway, so it was probably a point in the game. I don't remember exactly. But they brought Justin in the pitch. And I think all the scouts are like, okay, we're going to see him face some velocity here. So Justin's throwing, and at the time, he's probably mid-80s. If he's touching upper 80s, maybe. I mean, in high school, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. But Jason Worth parked one about 450 feet, and he might have been using a wood bat. And you see all the Oriole scouts or whoever was there kind of close up their books and said, yeah, I think we've seen enough. He's our guy.
That is great.
Just like you said.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
They were on top of each other back there. There must have been 15. There must have been 15 to 20 scouts back there.
Yeah. And like, what does that feel like for you? I mean, is any pressure on you at all?
I'm pretty sure I probably started the game catching, and then I came to pitch a little bit. Yeah. So, I still think to this day that probably put me on the radar.
Yes, absolutely.
Just with my arm strength.
Yeah.
And so,
who is this guy? Right.
It wasn't like I was the only guy that Jason Worth hit a home run off of that year.
Sure. No, not at all. But I'm sure they looked at you
16 or 17
saw the big arm, saw the body, saw that you probably had some pop, could swing it, and like maybe we'll see what this guy can do.
Just some raw skills.
Tools. Yeah, raw. Yeah. Okay, Steiny now. Same thing.
I still remember, I think, the game where he got noticed was when Jason Worth hit one at Chatham, I think over the lights off of him.
I heard about that one, yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. But at the same time, Justin was throwing gas. I mean, it wasn't like he was throwing BP to him. And I think, as I recall, Gillick maybe was the GM for the Orioles. He was there because that's who signed Jason Worth. And then and I think Dennis was involved in talking to him about, I think they were all kind of like, who's this pitcher? Just because Justin was throwing as hard as he did. So yeah. And it was so you could sort of just tell he was at the beginning of what he was going to be. So
there we go. That's a cool.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, right. If Jason Worth's not at Chatham, do I get that recognition? And
sure.
you never know. But yeah, I can say I gave up an absolute. I got Jason Worth drafted in the first round.
Has he ever said thank you?
Oh man, we actually got to work out a little bit, as in the off season.
Yeah,
a couple of times when he was before his big contract.
Yeah, dude, I'm not going to tell it right now, but I loved. I remember going to that warehouse he had. Remember when you had the Iron Mike set up?
Yep, down at I think it was on 2nd Street. It was an old hardware store. I think.
Is that what it was? Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it was an old hardware
had the Iron Mike, had like a little poker table set up, some workout stuff. Like it was just a place to hang out.
Yep.
And do your thing.
Oh yeah.
And he had baseballs in the Iron Mike. Remember that?
He had real baseballs.
So they would be taking off crazy. Yeah. I mean, that was.
I love hitting off those Iron Mikes.
Oh man, the Iron Mikes are the best.
They are the best. And now everybody hits off the hack attacks, the 3-wheel machines, and auto feeds those things. But the Iron Mikes, I still would prefer to hit off that because you're timing an arm.
Yeah.
And
you see it swing.
You get every once in a while catch a seam and throw you a nice little nasty 2-seam or something.
Dude.
But it obviously worked for him. The
Yeah.
guy hit a couple hundred home runs in the big leagues.
And you're Aper said that when you were coaching at Lincoln Land, they used to call you Iron Mike because your money BP was just automatic, over and over and over and over and over.
I've been known to throw some good BP.
Yeah. I love it. Well, so at this time you would have been playing around this time you would have been playing Pride then, right?
Yeah, summer ball we got into the junior Pride. I think we might have been the first team to do a junior pride.
Okay.
You know, they always had the Springfield Pride, but I don't know if they ever had the junior pride. But you know, don't fact check me on that. But
Okay.
we had a great team with the junior pride. It was you know, Springfield High kids. It was a lot of Griffin kids.
Yeah.
And that team kind of migrated into, you know, the regular pride when we were juniors and seniors. And a lot of us ended up going to Lincoln Land, and then you know, it was a great journey because we played summer ball together. A lot of us went to Lincoln Land together, and then we won a national championship together.
Who were some of those names on the Pride?
Oh gosh, so John Freeman was on that team. Joe Kulik, you know, Murphy and Kunze, we played together with during the summer. Obviously, Jason O'Malley did not play with us.
Yeah. He was a son.
So we had Shane Teeter and Steve
on the
Shilsky and
Shilsky. Oh, he wanted to play pro ball.
Oh gosh, there were.
Yeah, Shilsky was dirty.
Lord help me if I'm forgetting anybody's names. You know,
it's hard, man. This was 30-some years ago now.
But Dave Lawless was the one that organized the American Legion Post 32, and I think we were cleaning out the closet and had some old jerseys, some old Pride jerseys too, the old blue pinstripes.
Yes.
And
that's cool.
I remember playing in some of those games. You know, we'd go to Omaha and we'd go over. I remember the hottest doubleheader I ever had to catch. I caught the first doubleheader game at Danville Dan Stadium.
Love that place.
And there was no wind moving through there. It was 110.
Mm-hmm.
Humidity was brutal. And so I caught the first game. Shane Teeter was the other catcher from SHG. He drops in the first inning of the second game. He can't go. Like he's heat poisoning, sick or whatever. And so I run back out there and catch another doubleheader in the heat. And now all of these kids are getting babied in the summer. You know, it's too hot. You know, I was like, man, I catch doubleheaders in 110. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, that was a great experience.
It was an honor to play for the Pride. I don't know if I don't think the Pride is still around, but around that time, it was a big deal to play for them. A lot of studs played for the Pride.
Yeah, I don't think there is any Pride teams unless there's some Little League Pride teams. I know Frank Kolovic at one point was trying to keep the Pride team going because he was one of the guys that played on a couple of the older.
There's been a few storied travel teams in the area that people have tried to kind of like keep the name going. Like there's been some Statesman teams, there's been some Rifles teams, there's been some things like that.
When I got into coaching, we kept the Statesman name.
Right.
And then, you know, Finnegan was kind of wrapping up the Statesman, and I don't blame him. I mean, that was his baby.
Absolutely.
And so when I took on a new group after the Mitch Trees group and we'll get into that too, I'm sure, but I changed the name to the Rifles. And I'm the one that actually brought the Rifles back. And then now there's some other guys that are coaching, and they kept the Rifles name. Ryan Dorr. He's keeping that one going.
Awesome. I love it. Because it was a
big
– we'll get into that too, but it was a huge deal to play for the Rifles back in the day in the CICL. I have fond memories of being a Rifle myself. A lot of dudes went through that program.
Well, just like anything now. I mean, they've got all these tournaments now, and there's, you know, whatever, it's CABA and Perfect Game and PBR and all that stuff. But back then it was Legion.
Yeah,
like
it was Legion.
You played your Legion team. You went to the American Legion tournament, and you tried to win that thing. That was cream of the crop.
100%. Now, Are you being recruited at all after your junior year? Is there any talks with anyone, or is this more senior year stuff?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I do not remember any type of recruitment after junior year. None. Zero.
Really?
Maybe. I mean, no, because we had some good travel ball tournaments, and maybe there was a little bit of exposure. Maybe some soft letters coming in from some smaller schools. I don't recall, but I don't remember the recruiting process really starting until, senior year.
Really?
I mean, spring during the season.
Okay.
I mean, I really do not remember much of
late.
it.
Yeah.
We signed with Lincoln Land late.
Right. Steinwart mentioned that, there was some talk from SIU, maybe Carbondale, and maybe some Eastern, and that you actually had a cool kind of conversation with Dan Callahan, rest in peace, great guy, that he kind of, correct me if I'm wrong here, but essentially, you know what? Why don't I let Steiny tell it, actually?
Okay.
I've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No, I remember Callahan had an interest at Southern because he went to school with her mom, and I think it was kind of a neat story because he told them both, you can come, but you're going to sit for 2 years, and I think you ought to find a situation where you can play, and that is that's what I recall. Whether I can say that's factual, I know that was part of it. But I think that's sort of what made him kind of think, hey, let's look at Lincoln Land seriously, and then obviously develop there before they went to Miami of Ohio. So,
yeah, I agree. I think there was a little interest because I think he saw the tools and the raw ability.
Yeah.
Were Jason and I ready for Division I competition after our junior year, or even after our senior year? I would say I don't know that we were quite ready. I mean, I'm just being honest. And so when Callahan did, I think, say, I don't think they're ready for Division I baseball. I don't think he came out and said that they're not D1 caliber players. I just don't think that they were ready to compete. And you really want to come and sit. And so there was a little recruitment there. But you know what? Actually, just hearing him say that and communicate that, it lit a fire. It definitely lit a fire.
Yeah, for sure. There we go.
And he even admitted later. He goes, "Yeah, you guys probably would have done just fine." But we got to know him a little closer, obviously. And now that we talk about it, I do remember there being Eastern was involved somehow with recruiting me. They needed a catcher, and it still held true. They weren't interested in Jason. It wasn't going to be one of those things where I was going to go to Eastern and Jason was going to go somewhere else. It just wasn't happening.
Right.
And then obviously, senior year came around, and I think we had a really good senior year as a team. I have no idea what my stats are. Yeah, hopefully you got them. But I do remember, I think we were 30, 33-5, 32-5, something like that as a team. Lost in a regional or super regional to Normal. Left-handed pitcher. I think we lost 4-1. Andrew Jefferson, who ended up playing in the Giants organization.
Oh, cool.
Beat us. Just a little crafty left-handed pitcher. He ended up going to Southwest Missouri State, playing with Ryan Howard, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as my individual performance, what do you got? Because I have no idea.
383, 5 home runs, drafted in the 41st round, set the saves record, 7 or 8.
Wow.
Saves.
See, I would have never. I knew my average was decent.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's not lighting it up by any means, but for high school, and then 5 home runs.
It's like you were like all CSA, a good season. But I love this. I love highlighting this, that a pretty strong senior year, and then 2 years later, you're the junior college player of the year, have an absolutely bananas season. And to circle back a little bit, with what Coach Cal said, that you guys probably weren't ready. Your stats at Lincoln Land, even though it's JUCO to D1, say a different story. Say that you could have.
Yeah, there was, and we'll get to it. There was a lot of development from when we finished our senior year to the spring of our freshman year.
It seems like you guys went into warp speed or time traveled to whatever you were going to be.
I think so.
That's when you popped the popcorn.
Yeah, senior year was great. We had 7 seniors, and obviously with Tim Wallen and Greg Taylor and those guys being part of the team. But playoff baseball in high school, you only get one chance. You lose, you're done. And we ran into a good pitcher. And
I got a good Steiny clip here called Steiny and Teammates, and this one makes me laugh. Here we go.
Yes, I mean, when I look back, as negative as I was, I don't ever remember directing it toward them. It was mostly their teammates because they did. They outworked everybody. They did what you're supposed to do. There wasn't any screwing around.
I couldn't imagine you had any problems with them, personality-wise or
No.
No, one thing that he always, he was probably the one in Stash, is like, hustle. It doesn't take any talent in the world to hustle.
That was a huge thing in Springfield High School baseball, hustle.
And to work hard. I mean, and Jason and I, we grabbed that, and I did that all the way through pro ball. Yeah. And I'm kind of hoping that Ortmeyer had some comments about that, but we'll see.
K-team hustle.
We'll see. We'll see. But because he used to ride me all the time about it. But I tell the kids today, if I don't do as much instructing anymore, but effort and attitude, man, can carry you a long way. And it doesn't take any talent whatsoever to give 100%.
I love that. So we get drafted in the 41st round, and I remember Jason and both your mom kind of said it was a bit of a shock, like you weren't totally sure that was going to happen. Or how'd that go for you? Can you tell me about that? What's it feel like getting drafted?
There was a couple little conversations, with a couple scouts, and Scott Melvin, he played it pretty cool. He was the scout that drafted me with the Cardinals, and I never thought it was going to happen. I honestly didn't. And this is back in the day where we didn't have cell phones. They weren't calling you. I literally had been gone all day of the draft. Wasn't paying any attention to it. It was probably the second day of the draft, but I get home and the old school answering machine.
Man, really, it's on your answering machine.
Old school answering machine.
Wow.
And it's, hey Justin, this is Scott Melvin. I just want to congratulate you. We just drafted you in the 41st round. Give me a call. And
oh shit,
I was like, this is awesome. This is crazy. And so that's when it sunk in. It was like, well, heck, man, maybe I do have a chance at this because
Right.
there was a lot of great players, man. I mean, and I knew I wasn't Jason Worth,
Right.
and he was a first-round draft pick. I knew I wasn't that caliber.
Mhm.
And so for that to happen, that's probably what projected me into, all right, let's go. But, I
Yeah.
mean, it kind of gave me that motivation. Be like, okay, I'm going to work that much harder now and see how much better I can get at this game.
Was it from the get-go a draft and follow?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
100%. We were still really raw. You go back to what Callahan said. Were we ready to compete at that level after our senior year of high school and go play against some of the best players in the world at Division I or minor leagues? We weren't polished.
Right.
We were not there. And so, yeah, it was always going to be a draft and follow. Oh, if you really want to sign, we'll develop you. And it was, $1,000 a plane ticket and maybe
Right.
a new glove.
But if you scuffle, then they're sending you right back home.
And back then, it truly was. You could draft and follow a kid. You had all the way up until the day
year.
before.
Yeah.
The day before the next year's draft to sign a kid.
Right. They don't
It's
have
not-
that anymore, right?
Not like that anymore.
Right.
No, I think you've got two months.
Yeah.
Before basically school starts up.
Yeah.
So college starts back up. So and it's way different. Everything's slotted now. There's all kinds of showcases and camps and all kinds of stuff. But back then it was just answering machine. I got
That's really cool.
got a message. You've been drafted, but it was cool. And
Hell yeah.
I actually grew up a Cub fan. And so at the time I was not a Cardinal fan.
Right.
And so there was a little humor there that Jason was a Cardinal fan, I was the Cub fan, and here I am getting
Right.
drafted by my brother's favorite team.
And through your travels, do I have this right? Your travels through baseball, you've kind of just become a baseball fan, and you're not really locked in on any team anymore, right?
I don't have a strong allegiance.
That's how I feel too now.
No, I really don't. I
just like baseball.
and for a while there, I'd really pull for the Giants, but most of the guys that are there's still maybe a couple coaches around, and like the bullpen catcher is still around, but I don't. If they do well there, that's great. If they don't do well, I don't really care. But
Right.
I like to see good baseball.
Sure.
Heck, when the Cubs were in the World Series that year, I was like, I'm tired of the drought. Let's go. I want them to win.
Yeah.
And I have migrated into rooting more for the Cardinals because I get to go to a lot of games. But no, I just like to see good baseball. I'll root for all of them. I'm a big Tiger fan because of Maton now. I like to root for him and
Absolutely.
whoever Phil ends up with and local guys. Fitzy. Well, yeah, Fitzy's got
Yeah.
another local kid that's with the Giants. So
Future looks bright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I've got a couple clips here. One from your mom, one from Steiny about you being drafted.
Cool.
So here we go. Steiny being a part of it.
Oh, it was very cool. I mean, it was, I think for me, it was more like I was fortunate to have been able to have been his coach. It wasn't anything to do with me. It was despite me being his coach. He made, it was really fun for me. We still have pictures of when I took the boys up to Milwaukee. I want to say maybe it was Barry's 700th home run. And I know Justin was in the pen. We went to Milwaukee, and the boys were young. And then another time I took TJ. Oh gosh, he had to be 10 probably when Justin was in St. Louis, and he came over and brought him a bat that he still has to this day. It's just in the room next to me over here, And I mean that was what was cool. It was just how kind he was and good he was to do pictures, come over and do something that kind of gesture. So to me, it was just it's just an honor. I just happened to be there. It wasn't it was totally different than where like Coach Krasik helped develop him. I just was kind of in the path. Is really all that was. So, but yeah, it's definitely neat when you get to see a player that you got to spend time with. You get to do what you and I dreamt of as kids. So, what's cooler than that? Yeah.
What's cooler than that? I love that. And then Mamma Mia, Teresa K on being drafted.
No, yeah, it was pretty exciting. Of course, you have these big dreams. Oh, yeah, they're going to go play and be these big stars. And of course, John and we didn't have a clue as to what all that entailed. It was a draft and follow, and we're just going to keep an eye on him and see what happens. And but yeah, John was so proud.
Yeah.
Just he bragged an awful lot. Sometimes
That's so perfect.
it's like, shut up. quit. Just stop.
I love it. So this must have been a really cool moment for you. Getting recognized, getting drafted is a huge moment in a player's career. This has to have, like you just said, kind of put this in your brain of like, I can do this. this might be my path.
You're exactly right.
Right?
That I think that truly was kind of the moment where I was like, wow, I didn't really think it was going to happen. I had no expectations, and I think we'd already committed to go to Lincoln Land then, and I do remember the whole team kind of getting together, and Steinwert had gotten a Cardinal hat and presented me with a Cardinal hat.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was awesome. And so I knew I had all my senior class, all my coaching staff. They were just supporting me, and we always talked about the odds. The odds. And I think it might have been, I can't remember who it was, if it was Stash or saying like one of you guys might have a chance to play pro ball someday. That's the odds. And because Stetch had a kind of an opportunity to play some pro ball and whatnot. But there was a conversation at some point during high school that he was like, only one of you might have a chance to play pro ball someday. And then when it happened, I got drafted. I was like, well, maybe I'm that one guy.
I'm the one.
And of course we had two with Jason getting to go. Yeah. But so I'd like to say at the time it was a dream come true, but it really wasn't a big dream. It was just like I love to play baseball.
Happened. Yeah.
And that's just me being honest. I didn't dream about playing in the big leagues. I just love to play baseball.
I love that. And that probably, in terms of putting pressure on yourself was advantageous for you. You didn't have that like, oh, man, I'm messing up or I'm not doing well enough. It was just I'm enjoying the game, and I keep getting better. Yeah,
exactly. And that worked its way into college. And then obviously once you have a chance to, once you're in the system and you think about, okay, now I got to get to the big leagues. Well, then, that becomes a dream. Right. Dream is to play in the big leagues. I mean, obviously you're starting to become a man now, right? Yeah. I'm not just this little boy playing now. I'm a college man, and I'm I say, hey, I can try to go for this thing.
From this point on, would you say that kind of was your propulsion system? What was driving you forward was pro ball? Yeah,
because you had that carrot, man. That carrot was in front of you, so it's there. So you knew once I said, okay, I'm going to go to Lincoln Land, draft and follow. I've got a chance, and we get into that. But wanted to have a good year. Maybe the Cardinals will sign me before next year's draft. If not, I go back in the draft, come back for another year, which obviously is what happened. But it was it's just a surreal journey. It really was.
I love that. We'll finish out our part 2, which is our high school stuff with some Jim Steinwert quotes. And again, shout out to Jim Steinwert he has stats going back 40 years. He's the guy to go to for all these stats. No one else has them.
He gave me a whole pack, and I was already working for the bank, but he texted me or he came by and he goes, hey man, I got something I want to give you. It's this, and it was a huge, I think it might have been 2 huge of those, manila envelopes of just full of articles, pictures, stuff like that. And I know I've got all those things in a tote that my mom and dad kept, but I just put it with it because, someday my kids are going to go through this
stuff. They're going to absolutely love it.
And they're going to see like, oh my gosh. And honestly, Blake, that's why I'm glad we're doing this podcast. Obviously, 100%. You get to reflect and kind of relive the journey, but someday my 6-year-old and 3-year-old aren't going to listen to it tomorrow or whenever it gets done. But someday, I'm going to save this on some archive, and they're going to listen to it, and they'll realize, hey, my dad was pretty cool.
No, 100%, dude. That is one of my main motivations for this was we all come from an era where we don't really talk about ourselves a lot. Yeah, and but this is like celebrating your career, and your kids will always have that. And you're never going to sit down and be like, all right, kids, you want to hear me talk about my career for 4 hours? Like no one would ever do that. But in this setting, and we make it charitable, it's okay.
Yep, absolutely. It is cool, but there's a lot of cool stories, and there's been a lot of influence and impacts in my life, and
give them thanks and gratitude,
and hopefully they all get a chance to listen and
absolutely
reflect on it. So
I think we have kind of gained the ear of the Springfield area, so it's been cool. Yeah, so moving on to Lincoln Land, you, O'Malley, Jason, kind of this 3-headed monster head there. But you weren't even that close with O'Malley really going up to this, right? This is kind of when the real deep friendship kind of starts getting to Lincoln Land.
There was acquaintances, crossing paths a little bit. In high school, he was the enemy. He plays for Griffin. That's
the way it was back in the day.
And I'm proud to say senior year we beat him in everything. We beat him on the football field. We beat him on the baseball field. Yeah. And they didn't have a prayer in basketball back then. Now Griffin basketball is solid, but I think we beat him in soccer. I mean, we ran the table. And so it was surreal to beat those guys. But then all of a sudden we're teammates, and it was instant friendship with
Yeah.
O'Malley, and we had some of the other Pride guys coming over, the other Griffin guys, and yeah, glad best decision we ever made as far as going to a college, and getting to work with a guy like Coach Krasik, and the staff that he had out there just to develop, and that's obviously what happened. Hindsight's 20/20, but when you look at the success we had, couldn't have asked for a better experience.
Sure worked out.
Yeah, sure did.
You guys, caught lightning in a bottle out there. I'm going to start off our Lincoln Land stuff with some Big Bull quotes, and then some regular Bull. So when I say Big Bull, I mean, of course, Ron Riggle Sr., who is, if you don't know him, awesome, funny guy, ran the concession stand there forever, always had some advice, funny stories, and then obviously Ron, the head coach at Lincoln Land and AD, who will be, I think this is his last year there. But all right, some Big Bull quotes and some clips here coming up. Hit the longest home run I've ever seen at any level at North Florida over the center field fence. It's still going to this day. Excellent catcher, handled the pitchers well. A competitor, complimentary to his teammates. That team did not know how to lose. Ranks your season as the second greatest offensive season in LLCC history to Ryan Aper. He's one, and he calls you 1A. I had a lot of sons out there. They all became sons to me. Justin was a son to me. Here we go. Some Bull clips here.
Well, the Ryan Aper thing. Now let's keep this in context. I got to coach Aper.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I get to pass along all my knowledge to him.
He gives you a ton of gratitude.
If there's somebody that I would have liked to have seen just shatter anything at Lincoln Land, it would have been him. That kid was is so talented.
He was, absolutely.
Just a freak.
Yeah.
And so I was very proud to be part of his development. Yeah. And so he was fun to watch. He was fun.
We'll get there. Yeah. All right, Ron Riggle, super talented when he showed up at Lincoln Land, the best catcher around by far. The local group was just very talented, and Justin was the cream of the crop. Had great tools, hit for power, ran well, plus arm behind the plate. Had everything that you needed from a pro perspective. Continued to get better and handled the staff extremely well. Controlled the run game. Great leader, so vital to what we were doing. Unbelievable and well-deserved on his Player of the Year award. Had an unbelievable skill set. No one does what he did pitching-wise. It's unheard of. It just doesn't happen when we talk about. We'll get to that. I'm just so floored by what you did with your little pitching stint. Wonders what could have happened had you stayed with pitching, as do I. Or if, you had.
Makes three of us.
Right? Yeah, dude. We'll get there. Awesome wanting. He was always wanting to do more work, more reps, more time in the cage. Never complained about catching bullpens or complained in general. He understood when it was time to get better, expected a lot out of himself, but didn't get down on himself when he failed. Meant it, and later you came back and coached at Lincoln Land. Mm-hmm. And, he said you guys meant a ton to us as a coach, to have someone that played professionally at the highest level and started here like you, and to pass on that knowledge base, what you do, what to look out for, how to get better. You did an awesome job for us. Can't thank him enough for what he did for the program as a player and a coach. We were so lucky to have him. We bring LLCC people back, and we always have and we always will. We give them opportunities. So there we go. Bull.
Yeah, I mean, the Riggles another just big influences, big part of my life and my career. Bull, I can't thank Bull enough. When I got done playing, and we'll get to that too, a lot of foreshadowing here, right? But he gave me an opportunity to stay involved with baseball and in my hometown.
Yeah,
and
so cool.
6 years out there, and once we found out, Dad passed away and we got pregnant, it was just, I was one of those guys that had to be all in or all out, and I don't want to go too much into it, but he's forever grateful to Bull for all the opportunities, and he was the pitching coach under Coach Krasik when we went out there, and worked with the pitching staff, and he had a lot to bring to the table, because he had been around some big programs, and obviously had been under Claude Krasik's guidance for a long time too. So
Claude.
Yeah,
cool. Before we kind of get into it, I want to play a few clips here. I got a good O'Malley clip on talking about options that you guys had college wise.
And then getting into going into where we were going to go to college. What options we had, and when I kind of caught wind that they were potentially going to go to Lincoln Land, man, it really kind of solidified, my thoughts of going to Lincoln Land. Like, and it was never really, we talked about it. It was just kind of, hey, I think we're going to go. I was like, man, if that's the kind of competition, that's the kind of people that I want to be with.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I tell you, when we got to Lincoln Land is when I guess the friendship just took off and went to another level. Yeah, I mean, just running with those guys, the success we had on the field, we had just as much fun off the field, and I think that was what made that run so special. I mean, we just had a collective group of guys, and them two being, the heart of it. And
well, commenting on the going to Lincoln Land. So there could have been all kinds of schools come at us to go, but at the end of the day, we were going to Lincoln Land because that's what we could afford.
Yeah.
and so even if somebody would have come at us, and I know you've talked with several other athletes about how much scholarship money there is in Division I baseball.
Yeah, not much.
Not much at all. So even if they would have came to us as freshmen or senior high school, and somebody said, "Well, we got 50% for you and 50% for your brother," that's still a
lot of money,
a whole person that we got to get through college. And my parents got us everything that we needed, but we didn't grow up wealthy. I mean, we didn't grow up in poverty either. But that was the best thing financially. It was the best thing for our baseball opportunity and development. And so we were going there. And the fact that we were able to bring in O'Malley as well and all the other Griffin kids that came, and then parlayed it in with some other pieces. You got like-minded individuals that wanted to get better at baseball, wanted to play hard, all played the game the same way. Man, it was like just all the stars aligned. Yeah. And when he says, that we had an influence in his decision, well, I think it could have worked the other way too.
That's cool.
Hey, we're talking O'Malley, and Claude could recruit, so he played that game. Like, hey man, we're gonna get O'Malley too, so let's go. Coach K, man, he had a way, the guy built a heck of a program out there.
Mr. Logger himself. Let's settle this. I've asked Jason, I've asked O'Malley, I've asked Aper, Alpsmeyer. Remember the old Logger logo?
100%.
Is it Claude? It's Claude, right?
I've listened to the other podcasts, so I already know where you were going with this.
It's Claude.
100%.
It's Claude.
That is Claude. I don't care what anybody says. That is Claude. I don't care what he says. I don't care what Riggle says.
Thank you.
That is Claude, 100%. There's no doubt about it.
Did he pose for it, though? Did he pose for it in a Logger uniform is the funny part.
Probably not. But if the guy posed for it now, it would look like that logo. There's no doubt about it.
It looks so much like him.
Because Coach, I haven't seen Coach for a few years, but every time I see him, it doesn't look like he's aged a bit. Right? He looks in great shape.
He looks the same as he did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So and as sharp.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, the conversations I had with him were sparkling. I mean, it's an 80-year-old man to have the memory he has is insane.
Yeah, and good for him. And he works at it.
Yeah,
he plays
stayed in
golf,
shape,
and he
healthy
always
guy.
walked. I remember
just a vibrant person.
We'd have these marathon practices, and then he'd go for a long walk around the track. And,
legendary for that.
And he was the guy that would throw batting practice, and I loved Coach K. We'd have a lot of great practices and go to the backfield. I remember there was one time. I was a dead pull hitter when old Bull, or not old Bull, Big Bull, when Big Bull said that I hit a home run to center field, I was like, well, that must have been the only one I hit to center field, because every ball I hit was from the left center field gap to the left field line. But Coach Krasik was adamant. He goes, you got to hit the ball the other way. You're gonna have to learn to hit the ball the other way. Yep. And I remember after marathon practice, we went out and he's just firing balls at me, and I could not hit the ball to the second baseman. And obviously I learned how to do it over time, and you start to develop a feel for it. But that's the kind of coach he was. I mean, he'd stick around and work with you and work with you and work with you. And what a great legacy he left out there at Lincoln Land, and Coach Riggle, carried it on. But like I said, I would not change a thing about Lincoln Land baseball. Going to that program,
special place.
Freshman year was a great team. God, a great team. We not only did we have a strong freshman class, but the sophomore class was really strong too.
It was like Dustin Downs was lighting it up.
Dustin Downs, I mean, him and I remember
hitting bombs.
I think did he hit 3 and I hit 4, or 4 and 5? I can't really remember, but I mean, I think I hit 15 home runs that year, and he might have hit 14 or 15 with me.
Yeah,
and
you guys were right there together.
So he was a left-handed stick. I was a right-handed stick. I mean, anybody that was on base, we were driving them in.
Yeah.
And Tyler Shelton, God, the Tyler Shelton was a singles and doubles machine. That guy could just hit.
Yeah.
You know, didn't have over the wall type of power. He hit a few, but
couldn't get by him.
The guy, oh man, vacuum at third base.
Yeah.
We had like Augie Casson was at shortstop, and Duraco and Dan McGee actually split time with me catching. So I got to catch a game and then DH, and obviously with O'Malley and Jason in the outfield, we were really strong. We came up short in the regional. You know, it was a marathon game in the championship game of the regional against Parkland that year, and I think they beat us like 13-11 or 13-12. It was a marathon barn burner type of game, and just came up short. Yeah. And it was sad. And I remember Dustin Downs in that championship game. I think he went like 5 for 5 with 2 home runs, 2 doubles. I mean, he made like 3 diving catches in the outfield. The guy was just how he didn't get drafted based on that game. Right. I don't know what else he could have done.
Did he ever go to Carbondale after that?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. And he was just a stud. But I just can't believe we didn't win that game. And then so it broke us down a little bit. But we also knew, hey, we were this close. Yeah. You know, we were within one run of going to the College World Series. Or I guess back then it was a super regional. But we were so close, so that kind of gave us a little motivation for the following year.
Absolutely. And you touched on one thing there that made my light bulb go off in my head, and I always laughed when you guys talked about it. But can you guys just talk about the marathon practices that Claude would put on, like that wouldn't end? Can you?
Yeah, I mean,
there didn't used to be restrictions on time back then or anything like that. No. It was when Claude felt like it was over.
Yeah, and I'm sure Claude had a game plan or practice plan in his head, and I just don't know that we ever knew what it was. It was. Maybe he did, and I'll apologize to him to his face if he proves me wrong. But he came to practice with what we were going to do. We would bunt defenses, first and third defenses. We'd take batting practice. And so we're like, okay, we're done. And we're like, nope, let's go. Let's do cutoffs and relays. And then obviously everybody always had their jobs, and we had to put the field back together. And then, all right, let's go do this. Let's go to the track.
He's the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah, but you know what? It was work ethic, and
absolutely.
We were good.
Yes, it worked, right?
We were good.
There was a method to that madness.
Yeah, so and I'm not. Yeah, I was never afraid. I mean, obviously there's days you're tired and you got to battle through it. But what else am I going to do?
Going through adversity and stuff like that brings teams together, and you guys were a close team.
Very close, very close. And like I said, we're all like-minded individuals, man. That were trying to accomplish a common goal. We wanted to win the conference, win the regional, and get back to the College World Series. And we always talked about the '94 team, and
they won the World Series, right?
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you want to? That's your goal.
Theo Fifi and some guys like that.
Yeah, Trevor Froschauer, and he had the home run record.
Nick Cohen, I think.
Yeah, and so, we obviously had some goals in mind, and but yeah. It was great experience all the way across. Freshman year, I know I had a very, very good year.
Yes. 360, 189 at bats, 18 doubles, 15 dings, 704 slugging.
Yeah.
Quite the strong year, my man. That's such a jump from 380 something and 5 home runs as a senior in high school. Like something's happening.
Definitely put on some weight, and I don't remember lifting a ton of weights. I just think it was a natural development.
Yeah. Well, genetically, you are blessed.
Yeah, yeah. But it came.
Not that you didn't work hard. I don't want to take anything away from your work ethic, but you were blessed with awesome genes.
But it came late.
Right.
If I would have been the size that I was, senior and freshman year of college as a sophomore, I mean, maybe the draft is different.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so you just wonder. Okay, I just had a great year. Are the Cardinals going to want to sign me?
How'd that go?
Well, they said, what do you want to do? You obviously had a great year. I think they came at me with a small offer. Yeah. Obviously they're getting ready to have another draft.
Right. So they're trying to predict like where would you go in the next draft?
Yeah.
Right. Like what money do you deserve?
Exactly. And I don't remember there was obviously more teams that were kind of sniff around and take notice. I remember the Rangers guy was around and the Twins guy was around. So you're filling out all these questionnaires because back then everything was, paper and pen and there's not a lot of stuff on the internet. You're not going to showcases and camps and all that stuff. And so I remember Scott Melvin calling and say, well, what are you going to do? Are you signable? Are you? And I said, you know what? I think I want to come back.
Really?
So it was one of those things where I was already telling everybody that I was coming back for my sophomore year because of the year that we just had. We were so close to winning a College World Series. I'm like, let's just give it another year. Yeah. And so I did not get drafted after my freshman year.
I thought that was strange.
Well, it's strange, but it's not, because if I wasn't going to sign with the Cardinals,
It just was
if there wasn't a number that I could give them that was going to allow me to sign,
then why waste the draft pick?
Why waste a draft pick?
Oh.
And so
you could have been drafted 4 times.
I could have.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
And I tried to find a stat on how many people were drafted 3. I know it's got to be rare air, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But there's not many.
Yeah. I'm sure there's more out there than you think. But no, it's a great experience, and again, like, you always kind of second guess, well, am I making the right decision? But
sure.
At the time I was like, okay, I'm confident in my ability. I
love that.
I never thought much about it anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I just go out and play.
Right.
And there wasn't a lot of pressure until spring of sophomore year.
Okay.
We get into the spring of sophomore year, and we go to Florida.
Yeah.
And I think, we went to New Orleans, and Scotty Blackwell threw a no-hitter the first game, and I may have gotten a couple hits down there. And then we ended up in Florida, and I went to a funk.
Really?
I mean, I did not play well in Florida. I didn't hit well. I was probably catching fine and throwing just fine. But I just remember, I was like, all right, I'm gonna toe the line. I'm not gonna do any partying my sophomore year. We're gonna win this thing.
Yeah.
And just put more pressure on myself than I'd ever put on myself
like you
in my
took it
life.
too serious almost.
And finally, we were heading to our last game I think we were coming back to North Florida to go back to Springfield, because we bust. And I hit a home run and a double my last game after going like 0 for 10 or something. And that got me back on track. But I came back probably hitting 200.
I can't believe you had a slump in your junior college player of the year season. Like, there's no time for a slump.
I did not play well in Florida.
Wow.
Matter of fact, as a team, I think we came back at 500 that year.
Wow.
And so, and we played good competition, but that was the first time I was like, what am I doing? I was like, why am I putting pressure on? I was like, just go play. And then we get home, we get our conference schedule, and obviously we just go on a rampage and just start tearing it up.
Before we get all the way down the 2000 sophomore year, you got to play for the Rifles after your freshman year, and that would have been your first experience with that?
Yeah, fun experience. Wood bats. Gives you a little taste of what pro ball could be like, because you're playing 50 games in a summer.
Felt a lot like pro ball to me. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Love going to Quincy. Quincy Gems was the best place to play.
Yeah, especially 4th of July.
They drew crowds. They had the beer nights.
You get 8,000 people there.
Yeah. Twin City. Oh no, it was Alton. Alton had a team.
Okay.
I think Bloomington had a team, but the best place to go was Quincy. You love when you play Quincy. Springfield didn't draw all that great. We didn't get a ton of fans or anything like that. But you played against some competition. That's the first time we're going up against, I think Quincy Gen had 4 kids from Rice.
Right, yeah, that's a lot of D1 guys.
At the time, Rice was the program. I mean, it was legit.
Yeah.
LSU guys and Long Beach State. I was like, holy cow, man! These guys are dudes.
I
man.
had the exact same thoughts when I played. For sure. Like, oh man, I go to Lincoln Land. This guy's at Cal State Fullerton. Like,
I actually remember.
Do I belong here?
I actually remember. I always loved facing lefties, and every lefty that we played against in the MWAC, it wasn't too crazy, nothing overpowering. I remember facing Neil Kotz, and Neil Kotz ended up ISU. And I swear,
long big league career.
Oh yeah, nasty. And we ended up having the same agent in pro ball.
Oh, cool.
But he threw this 2-seamer at me that I swear just snaked the whole way in, and I'm like, I have never seen a pitch like that.
What was that?
It was just a 2-seamer. It was just a really good. I mean, hindsight, I saw him all the time once I got into pro ball.
Right.
But I was like, I've never seen a lefty 2-seamer just kind of wiggle like that. I mean, it was unreal. So it's weird what you remember.
Yeah,
but
stands out.
It was. So I remember. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to figure out how to hit that one. So.
Yeah. Not cool.
But yeah, the Rifles experience, all in all, great. It's great summer baseball. The horseshoes in town now, they have a similar type of deal. Yep. And but I enjoyed all those years playing for the Rifles.
I've got a few clips to rip through here before we kind of really get into that sophomore year.
Okay.
I've got a couple Claudes, and then I've got a couple Big Bulls. So let's start off with Claude on JU, the person. Here we go.
I said not only talk about the player that he is, but I'm going to talk about the person that he is. The son that he was to John and is to Teresa, the brother that he is to Jason and Joe, the husband that he is to Ann, the father that he is to his children, the friends that he is to so many kids out there and so many people, the leader. I mean, it wasn't a mistake an accident that the Bank of Springfield has so many former players working for them now in a leadership position because they follow the leadership of one Justin and Jason Knoedler. So when you look at that, that's one of the reasons that the BOS is successful, other than the fact that it had a great start in it. But yeah, the kids always looked up to him, and they figured, heck, if he can do it, I'm going to go ahead and do it. If he's as good as he is, and he's going to run that extra 2 sprints as hard as he is, I'm going to run all of my sprints as hard as I am. I'm going to go ahead and work that 25 pickup drill as hard as I can, because that's what Justin Knoedler's doing. So they looked up to him, and they saw he actually led by actions, not by words. Yeah. You know, he'd come in and throw in a fiery word now and then, but all you had to do was watch him. Just watch him perform.
Cool clip by Claude, and I can't stress this enough. You got something special if your best player is your hardest worker or one of your hardest workers on a team. I mean, that sets the tone in such a way.
Well, and I love that clip too. I love hearing his voice because, you know, a lot of great coaches, a lot of great influences, but, you know, still to this day, I really think Claude was one of the bigger ones in my life, you know, and just the extra steps that he took, and that, you know, he cared. I mean, he cared about each one of us kids, and, you know, and he made sure that we were getting everything we needed. And, you know, talking about leadership and working hard, and he's right. I was not a big rah-rah guy. I mean, I'd get fired up if I felt like we needed to.
That's Jason.
That was. It was Jason and some other guys. It warms my heart to hear his voice and hear him say that. That's great. Yeah.
This next one is Claude again. This is on your hitting ability, and it's called Justin Hitting. Ouch. I give these things funny names sometimes. I don't know why.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, this is a guy, he was an absolute masher. He'd come up there, and you'd hear the ball yelling, ouch, as it left the bat. He just crushed them. And I don't know that we had anybody get the ball to the fence in the gap any quicker than he. I mean, it would be a line drive, and boom, it'd be at the base of the fence, or even his hard ground balls would get to the fence if they got past the infield. So that tells you about his power. And, you know, here's the other thing. He had the ability to hit to all fields. He wasn't one-dimensional, where they would have to play him as a pull hitter all the way. He could take the ball the other way when he wanted to and go according to where the pitch was. And you know what? I attribute that to all the hard work that Bruce Richards put in with him on the cages, and Don Tim.
All right, well, I would credit. So sophomore year, I did learn to hit the ball a little bit more the other way. Freshman year, I would love to see a spray chart. Now they got these iPads and they keep track of where spray charts. You know, but I don't know if they did that any at all back then. But I was more of a dead pull hitter, and you know, you could take that right fielder and put him in the right center gap, and I would never get a ball the other way. But yeah, Coach Bruce Richards,
Pally.
man, Pally was the flip king, man. Like he had his bag of balls, and he'd sit on his lap in his chair, and he'd just sit there and flip it. And half the time they were terrible flips, you know. He was like, Bruce, throw the ball out in front of me, man. You're tying me up on my flips here, man. And he'd be like, hey, until you got one of these on your finger, shut the hell up. And we'd give him a hard time, but I tell you what, you know, just another just cool influence and a great guy. You know, he kept things loose, and you know, there'd be banter back and forth with Bruce, but you know, we kept in touch with Bruce after our playing days and in the pro ball, and even Jason O'Malley and I were pallbearers at his funeral, and so just proud to be able to do that.
Love that guy. A lot of guys loved him coming through that program. Finished this classic Pally line for him, so his nickname was Pally. And he would do this with his hitting, and he would demonstrate where he wanted the barrel, right? Mm-hmm. Remember this? You know where I'm going?
Oh, yeah.
All right, he'd go, well, here you go. It's not here, it's
here.
And it would be, where would the bat be?
It'd be the exact same spot. You know, that was his go-to. And hey, let me show you something. It's not here, it's here.
It's here.
And so
looks the same to me.
O'Malley was great. Bruce, just shut up and throw the ball.
All right, and now we're getting to Big Bull. I cherish these clips. I cherish this guy here. He still loves being a part of this. That we're Bringing them in. All right, Big Bull on JU, the player.
As a catcher, at 2 years at Lincoln Land, I never saw him throw a ball in the center field by missing a throw.
Yeah.
He had a cannon for an arm. He could throw the ball 90 plus from the mound.
Yeah.
Was excellent defensive first baseman, a great hitter. The best thing I could say, he was a complete ball player. Offensively, defensively, his leadership. He was a complete team player.
There's that, and then I got another Big Bull. This is called Any Position. This was cool too.
The one thing I would tell you, he's the only person I saw play that I think could have played at the star level in every position on the field. He could have played shortstop. He could have played third base. He could have played the outfield. We know what he was as a catcher.
Yeah.
And he could throw the ball over 90 miles an hour. He's the only guy I've ever seen out there that could play he could play every position on the field in a game and be the best at that position.
It's a great clip.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would have been confident playing most positions, to be honest with you. And obviously, if you can't catch, you can't play every position on the field. And you could have put Jason at any position.
Yeah,
he didn't catch a lot, but yeah, I mean, when you're a competitor, you're going to figure it out. You may not be the smoothest, and that holds true for a lot of the kids I coach. You could have put Ryan Aper in any position. You could have played any position. Mitch Trees, when I coached him, he was my best shortstop. He was my best catcher. He's my best.
Athlete.
That holds true. But I do appreciate all the comments. But my goal was always to be a good teammate. And just do my job and give it my all the time. So, Big Bull, man,
great cliches.
I know. They are cliches. I'm sorry. You play back-to-back clips and my mind start going and I can't remember what I wanted to say. So, but no, Big Bull's been great. Big Bull's great for the program. Really was. I mean, he helped fundraise and he helped make sandwiches and burgers and
those ham sammies, baby,
and you name it. But the program's not the same without him.
It's not.
I mean, think about how much we're talking about. Why would you go back and talk to him if you didn't think he was instrumental to the program? And so, fond memories of Mr. Riggle and the whole, Bruce, and we had Don Tim out there, and I'm trying to think of if there was anybody else that really came through there as coaches, but it was really just Coach Krasik, Coach Riggle, and then Bruce, and then Don Tim would help out from time to time too as a hitting guy. But
my favorite Big Bull thing was that obviously he ran the concession stand. In between double headers, we would go, you get your sandwich and your chips or whatever, you get something to eat, right? But it was totally contingent on what you paid for what you paid was contingent on how you played. Mm-hmm. So if you went up there, he'd be like, "How you do, buddy? You go 2 for 4." Yeah, I'm having a good day, Bull. He'd be like, "It's on the house." Person behind you went 0 for 4. He'd look him dead in the eyes and be like, "350."
Yeah,
he was paying attention, man. Love Big Bull. All right, moving on. From what I think I understand, you and Jason signed with Miami of Ohio
in the fall.
We
sure did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you tell me about that process?
Sure did. Went? Well, obviously had really strong years as freshmen. Jason had a strong year too. Mm-hmm. So you kind of want to get that out of the way if you can, right? I mean, it just kind of relieves, and not that we had a lot of pressure anyway. And so that was another reason why I don't know why I put so much pressure on myself, going into that sophomore season. But there was an opportunity to a couple schools. I remember, I think Southern might have been interested again, and then there was a little bit with the University of Illinois. Was it Central Tennessee or Middle Tennessee? Stash at like Lincoln Memorial or something.
LMU, that's where Stash went. D2.
But really, right out of the gate was Miami of Ohio, and it came. And I remember you had this on Jason's story. Yeah. Andy Danner played over there and caught wind, and before you know it, they needed a catcher, and they said, "You need to go check out the Knoedler guys." And so they came in, they watched me, they liked me, and they wanted to recruit me, and they kind of knew, hey, we want to stay together. So we're like, okay, well let's see if we can make that work. We went for a visit, and they made it happen. And it was we stepped foot on that campus, and they not wined and dined us, but they rolled out the red carpet. Showed us the campus. They let us stay with a couple of guys in the dorms that night and kind of go out and experience the campus life.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, again, could not have been happier with the decision. Yeah. Just a great experience. Tracy Smith is a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
Even put me in my place one time, just because where I was coming from and I hadn't been at the D1 level. I thought I was a big fish in a smaller pond compared to, Division I baseball. And, but so it was the great recruiting experience. And I tell you what, we didn't even consider anything. I mean, I remember you said on Jason's story, we left there after getting our offer and didn't even get probably 10 miles outside of campus and called and said we're in.
We're doing it.
I mean, it was I don't think we made it home. I really don't.
Yeah, it just felt right.
It did feel right. And they wanted us both. It seemed like a great opportunity to play. Good people. We got to meet some of our teammates, and they were very welcoming. And it was part of a show. I mean, recruiting is what it is. I mean, they're gonna make everything look great.
Not gonna look
hook,
bad.
line, and sinker.
Yeah, right.
So we were in. And again, I wish I could have spent more time there.
Right.
I really do. I mean, I would have loved to have gone back and played a senior year. Played more there. But obviously, I didn't want to take away from the Lincoln Land days because that was a great experience too. So.
You didn't go on any other recruiting trips?
No.
Man,
I do not. I don't remember if we did. I don't remember.
How did you get out of Illinois? I'll never understand that. I don't understand how you got out of the MVC.
Yeah.
There's tons of MVC teams around here. How did you end up?
I would have liked to. I don't know if Coach Krasik remembers anything, but it kind of just drowns out when you had such a great experience at Miami of Ohio. The recruiting thing, that's what you remember. Yeah. And then obviously you went there and you remember that. I don't remember really getting a ton of other offers. I think Eastern came back in the picture.
Right.
I really do. Like I said, Southern Illinois.
Right. I just want to. This is also before you were Player of the Year, so you had not. I mean, you had a very strong freshman year. But
freshman year was good.
You weren't the JUCO Player of the Year yet.
Yeah, I think it's still like a kind of all conference probably
sure.
and all region or something. But
yeah.
It was starting to come together, but it still wasn't what I did my sophomore year, obviously. But.
Yeah, and this is the year, man. I'm excited to get to this. The 2000 team. Love this team. I have ideas. We've talked about actually before this of some sort of a 2000 episode on here where we kind of celebrate all that. But Junior College Player of the Year, you guys win the national championship in a walk. Just roll over everyone. 389, 222 at bats, 21 doubles, 6 triples, 19 bombs, 72 RBIs, 796 slugging, stole 14 bags. Just from what I understand, in the cleanup spot mostly. Mm-hmm. Heart and soul, that order. Can you tell us a little bit about this? Oh, you know what? Here we go. 46 and 19 was your record. 5 future pros, 2 future big leaguers. Let me go to the roster. Scotty Blackwell. I always love when Big Bull's got a story about Scotty Blackwell stepped off the bus and threw a no-hitter. It's like his favorite.
There's enough stories about Scotty Blackwell to fill several hours, and some of them we probably shouldn't say.
That would be rated something that we couldn't be on here. Ryan Britnell, Kevin Ferris, John Freeman, John Huber, Jason Knoedler, Justin Knoedler, Joe Kulik, Brad Leiniger, the head coach of Southeast now, Ryan O'Malley, Everett Sunley, Chip Wagner, the freshman Pat Brown, Josh Cottrell, Ricky Harbor, Nick Kunze, Brian Lemmy, Kyle Mooney, Ryan Murphy, Joel Namovich, Scott Riley, Frank Stefano, Ryan Turner, head coach Claude Krasik, and then Ron Riggle and Bruce Richards.
Yeah. It's funny. I could probably recite that without looking at it.
Really?
I mean, there's not too many. There's not too many teams that I could do that. I mean, there's I played with that guy there, but that team, to this day is probably the best group of guys I've ever been around.
Love that.
And a lot of us are still close today. Obviously, we. Ryan Murphy and Frank Stefano, and I go fishing every year with Brad Leininger, still a very good friend of mine, and Joe Kulik, and so I mean, obviously
special team.
Yeah, and those are the friendships that you have forever, man, and that's what's so special about it. A lot of us work together, obviously, but unbelievable team, and like I said, we went down to Florida that year and came back, and we played some really good teams down there. Obviously we're coming out of the cold weather and going down and playing teams that have already got 20 games under their belt. Yeah. We didn't perform great. I didn't perform great personally, but as a team, I think we came back 500.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure we did. And then we get back into our conference play, and and there's some good teams in the conference, Parkland and Danville, and Heartland wasn't in there yet, but there were some other competitive teams. And so Parkland was obviously the team to beat because they're the ones that beat us the year before.
Yeah.
But we went on a tear, an absolute tear. And just one thing after another. We had a great 1-2 punch with Blackwell as our ace, and then Ryan O'Malley coming in after him, the righty-lefty combo. They really didn't have an answer for those two.
Frank Stefano said he didn't even pitch once you guys got to the World Series. Like, it was just your starters. You guys were that good.
Well, because those guys, Ryan and Blackwell were going to throw complete games.
Yeah, that was it. It was over.
And then Ev Sumley, he was our number 3, and that guy was a dart throwing machine.
Right,
I mean,
that guy, his own.
He wasn't maybe going to overpower you with his fastball, but he had a little giddy up, kind of sneaky. Yeah. And wherever I put that glove, he hit it.
Yeah.
And had a little change up to go with it, and he just what a great number 3, right? Wasn't going to walk guys.
Right.
The guy had forms like Popeye, and just was a great competitor too.
I love it. 12-0 in the title game, so just cleaned up. Lincoln Land won its last 6 postseason games by a combined score of 57-8, including 35-2 in the 4 World Series games in Millington, Tennessee. Lincoln Land finished with a school record 46 victories.
You know what I remember going, and we got down to Millington, Tennessee, and they had a little ceremony with all the teams, and you kind of interact with some of the other guys from the teams or whatever, and you start to hear this buzz like, oh, that Lincoln Land team's the team to beat. And I'm like, really? Like the Iowa Central team's like 58-1 or whatever. I don't know. Their record was stupid. It was like I think they had 50 wins.
Right.
And I'm just kind of thinking, okay, these teams are coming from all over the country. There's Iowa, Arkansas, Mississippi, all these teams, and I'm like, really, we're the favorites? I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, then we go out there and Blackwell shoves,
and
O'Malley shoves, and Ev Sumley flies in to pitch game 3, and I'm like,
That's
here
right,
we are.
He was working on his electrician apprenticeship.
Yeah, his apprenticeship. Yeah.
Crazy.
And so he comes in, and before we know, we're like, we're going to win this thing. We're bringing Blackwell back for the championship game, and it really wasn't even close. I mean, there was one game. There's one game. I don't know if it was game 3 or if it was the championship game. I wonder if we could find it. I went 5 for 5.
Jeez.
In Millington, Tennessee, that ballpark was the biggest ballpark I've ever played on. I think it was 440 to center field, or maybe 430.
Yep, I got it.
And there was a huge tower. There was a huge tower in center field, and they said that. I remember when we were taking batting practice, and they go, "Oh yeah, Frank Thomas put one halfway up that tower, with Team USA." Yeah. But so I went 5 for 5
with mono.
I didn't even remember. I totally whiffed on that. I forgot about that.
I didn't.
So I went 5 for 5, and I hit the top of the wall for the cycle, and like at a 440 fence.
Man,
and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I never got one out of there." Didn't get one out of there.
But you had mono.
I forgot all about that.
So both Jason and Claude talked about how awesome it was that you were like, I'm playing.
So we got through the regional. We won the regional, and we have to go out and play Sauk Valley, and I think it was best of 3 series. And that I'm on the bus, and I'm laying sideways. I can't swallow.
Man.
I'd already gotten tested. And so I'm pounding Gatorade. I've got the chills. I'm sweating. I'm in the hotel room, and just like I don't know what I'm gonna do, man. And the doctor's like, don't play. And I gutted through it. And they were like, well, you shouldn't play for 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm like, I was like, I'm not doing this. Like this is not happening. So I sucked it up, and I don't exactly remember what I did at Sauk Valley. That's kind of a blur, but I know felt a little bit better as the national tournament came around, even though I still couldn't swallow them.
Claude has some thoughts on you being sick.
Okay.
Ready?
I'll tell you a little story that I don't know whether I'm not proud of it or what, but it was like the day before we were going to be going down to the national tournament or to a tournament, and he was under the weather. He wasn't feeling good. And we lined up out in the outfield, and I talked to all the players, and I said, well, all right, we're going to run 10 poles. And he said, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I said, Justin, you can do it. And one of the other players says, Coach, he's not feeling good. I says, Justin is going to do it because he just got through practicing, and he wants to play and get better. And he looked at me and he says, I can do it. And he went out there and he ran those 10 poles and for the most part beat the other guys that he was running against. So there again, that's a leadership role.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, well, you get to the point where, okay, if you want to play, you gotta gotta do it, right?
You can't be like, I can't run poles, but I'm playing.
And so, yeah, I remember that was one of the worst times I ever felt.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, mono can affect you a couple different ways, but I just remember I could not swallow.
Yeah.
And I had like these cold sweats, and it was just brutal. But it started at Sauk Valley.
Really?
And I played at Sauk Valley, but I might have just DH'd. I don't know if I actually caught. We had a great option with Nick Kunze being able to catch too.
Right.
But yeah, I'd have to go back and see if there's a box score there or something on that one because I don't remember.
I love that quote. I've got some Ryan Murphy quotes to get through here. So obviously your teammate and some clips too. But your teammate, I love talking with this guy. I'm going to say it. I always say it every podcast when his name comes up. You, Jason, and O'Malley have all said that he was, one of the guys you played with that you think had the talent to play pro ball, but it just never worked out for him. So let's give that man his credit where it's due.
No, Murph was a gamer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Murph was a gamer. Yeah, he was a gamer. He was a great third baseman,
Yeah.
and he found a way to make the plays.
Yeah.
And he could hit.
Absolutely.
The guy had really good hands. He stayed inside the ball.
Yep.
I can still remember his stance and his finish of his swing.
Yeah.
Just very balanced, and he was a gap to gap hitter, but he hit the right center field gap an awful lot. Was going to be a tough out. Little did I know, because I know he's going to listen to this, that later on in life he'd be the angry Irishman. But no, Murph's a great coworker. He's a great friend, and he's he was a great teammate at the time, and so very fortunate to have gotten to play with him as much as I did growing up, and fortunate to work with him too, because we're great teammates in the workforce too.
Well said. All right, Murph, and I've got a bunch of clips by him. He's a clip machine. First became aware of JU getting recruited to come play for the Pride. There was a stud catcher at SHS with a cannon. That's what I first remembered hearing about him. I remember how small and almost runt-looking they were as kids. It was like, later on, it was like, is this the same guy that I knew playing Little League back in the day? Like, he's a stud now. Let's see. I never got RBIs because JU always cleared the bases.
That's true.
So think about this. He goes, I had 19 plate appearances that year where Justin had cleared the bases, and it sucks hitting after someone hits a bomb. It's like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah,
Nothing.
No, that's true. And then I had O'Malley in front of me, and he would, Jason and Chip would get on, and then O'Malley would drive them in, and then I'd have to drive O'Malley in. So.
Yeah. Never got too high or too low. Never knew if he had 2 jacks or 2 Ks. Always even keeled. I wasn't surprised when he did his thing pitching. What can't he do? The only person that could ever push Jason running wise was Justin. I wanted to highlight that. He was really fast. You were like a step behind him. To go back from pitching to catching, again, not surprised. He's incredible. Only thing I was ever surprised was when his catching career ended, why he didn't give pitching another chance. And they mentioned, obviously your career ended with a concussion, so we'll get there. Offered an opportunity to stay in baseball as a coach at the pro level, but turned it down. I guess we'll get there. That's interesting. Cool story about Murph graduating college, and his dad gave him an option. We can go anywhere we want. We can go on a trip and do anything, and he chose to go to spring training, him and his dad, and follow you guys around and watch and just see it.
That was one of the coolest things,
right?
though.
That's cool.
I'm not gonna lie. When spring training, got called up to the big leagues, and you have Springfield people there to pull for you and say hello, and God, that was one of my fondest memories of even going out to dinner afterwards or grabbing lunch or something like that. I mean, when you have people that have your back and they're supporting you and they're in your corner, man, what a great feeling, man. I was not hurting in the love department. I had plenty of people in my corner. So.
Love that. So let me get through some Murphy clips here, some awesome ones. We'll start it off on Murphy, on your confidence here.
But yeah, it's so different than Jason though. He just had this confidence. I mean, because he was on the team and he was one of our guys, like he just elevated everybody's confidence of the team, because we were like, we know we have the best player on this field and he's on our team. So he didn't have to say much, man. But you know how it is? Like you're like, man, we got the best dude on this field and he's on our team. He's wearing our jersey. I mean, that's the confidence that he helped everybody with, because we're like, man, if I make a play, or if I don't make a play, or if I get out, like, that guy's got to come up 2 more times, you know? I mean, so he wasn't vocal though. Like, he was the anti of Jay. Jay was the
Right.
cheerleader, the spark plug, everybody, you know, getting everybody fired up, getting, you know, being the first guy out of the dugout, and Justin was just there, man. It was that presence. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but he played with Barry Bonds. I think that's kind of the guy he was. Like, he just was. He didn't have to be a cheerleader. He wasn't a rah-rah guy. You just loved having him on your team, because you're like, we got the best player on this field, and he's wearing our jersey. So.
Pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and I never thought of myself as the best player on the field. I mean, I always just wanted to do my job, you know. And it started with pregame. You know, I was always told, you know, we're gonna shut down the running game in the warm-ups. You know, I'm gonna throw this ball as hard as I can down second base and let everybody know, like, if they steal, they're gonna be out. Yeah. But in not a cocky way, but I did have a chip on my shoulder. But like, okay, if you run, you're dead.
Announcing your presence with authority.
And I learned that from Steinwert. Steinwert was like, hey, we're gonna take a clean infield, outfield. We're gonna look sharp, and he'd always tell me, hey, hose it down second base, shut this running game down. Why would you want him to steal? I don't want him to steal. Let's keep your butt on first base. But if you run, we're gonna throw you out. But no, and you know, look, I appreciate the comments, but it took all of us to be as solid as we were in that 2000 team, and it was a team effort, and certainly did my job behind the plate and at the plate. So.
The perfect clip here. Then Murphy, no one runs on JU.
I mean, with him behind the plate, man, you knew nothing was getting by. You knew nobody was running on us. I mean, it shut the running game down, and he always seemed like he was in control. It was just, you never worried about him. You were just like, oh, Justin's back there. No big deal. You know, I mean, like, we never even thought anything differently. But, I mean, what I learned, you know, after, you know, leaving and going to SLU and seeing the catchers we had there, I was like, man, the guys at my junior college are so much better. You know, I mean, JU was so good. And even Kunze, I mean, was way better than the guys I played with at SLU. And we were just so spoiled with both of them on that team. But, I mean, you never even thought it was nothing. It was just JU was behind the dish, man. And that just meant nobody was running on us. And we were solid back there. You just never even thought about it. It was never a worry.
Well, look, you know, I always took more pride in my catching than I did anything else. Yeah. And so God blessed me with an unbelievable arm. You know, and I can't say it I cannot say it any better way than that. You know, it's the old cliche. You know, God put a lightning bolt in my right arm, but and honestly, that's what got me exposure to get drafted. It's what, you know, kind of propelled me through college and into pro ball. Yeah. And so I always took that seriously, man. Yeah. And I, you know, so throwing guys out, my favorite playing baseball, strike them out, throw them out, man. Yeah. You know. And in between innings, took every throw serious. You know, wanted to you know, see how quick I could get down there. You know, stopwatches on me. You know, and I had really good arm, had really good pop times, and it was important to me. And so, shut the running game down. I mean, that's part of my job. I want to make sure I was doing my job.
I can close my eyes now and just picture you throwing this. You know, the hand right to your ear, just compact, and then it was just wham, just thunder was coming. Yep, loved it. Murphy, every game bomb. Here we go. I got some Murphy clips to get through.
He just was. I mean, every game you thought he was going to hit one. I mean, it was that kind of year for him, where like if he didn't hit one, he just missed one. You know, I mean, so you know, at some point in time in the game, he was going to impact the game by just putting a scream into one. So, like I said, it was fun when we were all rolling and that lineup was rolling. I mean, it was fun to be a part of it. Nobody got any relief at that point in time. You know, hopefully he'll probably deny it, but hopefully he, you know, will say, well, hey man, Murph was hitting behind me. They had to throw me something too, because, you know, it wasn't getting any easier going behind him. So, I mean, and that's what O'Malley would probably say. O'Malley got a lot of pitches too, because they know Justin was hitting behind him. So it was just kind of pick your poison with that lineup, man. I mean, who do you want to try to get out?
Love it, and that's great.
Oh, that's funny. I have lunch with Murph almost every day, and every once in a while we'll reminisce on the 2000 season. he'll give me a quick shot saying, "Oh yeah, you had the best protection in the league." But I never thought of myself as a home run hitter until they just started coming. Like, obviously, like you said, I hit 5 my senior year, and then I hit 15 in freshman year and 19 as a sophomore. I'm like, I don't know where it came from.
Was it something you were trying to do?
No, just naturally. I guess I just naturally got stronger. And Jason will tell you, I had a little lift in my swing.
Obviously,
it just kind of naturally came. I hit a lot of lazy pop ups later in my career, and
he did bust your balls. Actually, to me, talking to me about that.
Yeah,
you hitting it in the top of like the turtle shell and BP, and he'd be like, "Come on, dude, hit another fly ball."
Yeah, I had to learn to be a little shorter when the pitching got a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right, last one from Murphy. This is a funny one. This one is called Murphy Scared to Death at Third.
No, I would tell you the thing that scared me to death more than anything is when somebody would try to steal third or they got too far off of third. I was just like, please, God, don't bounce this. Don't skip this on me because it's going to hurt really bad. So, I mean, at third base, the only thing you're told is no matter what, you have to block that ball. And when it's coming 90 plus from the dish, I'm like, don't skip it on me. Don't bounce it on me.
That's funny because every once in a while you would skip one in between innings or something, and it would catch an infielder's wrist, and you just felt terrible. And once I got into pro ball, it was like, you better not do that shit.
Right, they fly no more.
Well, because the shortstop's probably a first round draft
pick.
He's
worth $1 million.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, you might want to don't slow down a little bit and make sure you get that ball there.
Leave it up. Yeah.
Nobody in pro ball goes really quick. They do a smooth. They kind of take a little time, and then they just make a good strong throw. They don't try to beat the stopwatch in between innings.
I love it. I've got 2 O'Malley clips to get through, and then we'll kind of move along here. So O'Malley on your arm strength and catching here.
Oh man, I mean, he's at one of the top, man.
There,
that was
right?
definitely,
Awesome.
man. That was definitely a big strength of Justin. And then obviously just a wall behind the plate when it come to he spent a lot of time working on his blocking ability. Right. He took a lot of pride in it. But, man, the guy just had a bazooka. I just remember him throwing off that wall at Lincoln Land. We would always throw against that far wall. Yeah. And, I mean, he could just put it on a line. So whenever you threw to him, like you didn't even really worry about the running game. It was just like, execute your pitch and let Justin do his thing. So that was a great quality he had.
Well, it's going to be a common theme, with the strength of my arm, obviously. But I mean, you take pride in anything you do, and it's just something that I love to throw guys out, man. And I really did. I didn't do as many pickoff attempts as what catchers you see when I trained my catchers when I was working with like Mitch Trees and Colton White and some of those guys. Those guys love to pick. Yeah. And I'm like, well, keep picking. Keep those guys on their toes. But I love to throw. And my arm strength. You made the comment about picking a spot on the wall and drilling it. I mean, I did that so many times.
I'll never forget that.
Like I said, there's nothing you could do. It was God given. I can't say I did anything special as a kid. Right. I mean, maybe a little long toss here and there, but that arm strength just came. Yeah. And O'Malley could throw. O'Malley had a great arm. Jason had a great arm. And for them to say that I had a bazooka, I mean, I guess I just had another little gear.
You did the next level.
Another gear.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And then final one, O'Malley on your work ethic here.
I mean, both of them, the work ethic that they put in, they are obviously great, God-given talent, but they used every inch of it and worked hard in the cages. When we would get into, the early morning workouts at Lincoln Land, I mean, they were always pushing the limits on, extremely fast, pushing each other, pushing the rest of the guys, leading by example. So I think it starts there.
K-team hustle.
When I think of those guys, I mean, they're the complete competitors. Yeah. Both in preparation and in the cages. And then it translated into the field.
Well, we fed off each other because O'Malley was right there with us too. So don't let him fool you. And I'd say the same thing about him, right? Because like I said, like-minded, common goal.
Yeah.
You know, the harder he worked, the harder we worked, the harder we worked, the harder he worked. I mean,
Yes.
it was contagious. You
It
know,
really
and
was,
so
yeah.
that's what good teams have.
And then you guys stayed together as a trio of like workout partners all the way through
All the
college
way
and
through.
pro ball in the off season. And you guys were, let me into that fold. And man,
Yeah.
it was cool watching you guys work.
Who wants
process?
to work out by themselves? You know, it's hard
Right.
to, I go to the gym by myself all the time now, and I got to motivate myself. It's not the same, but
Yeah.
when you have an accountability partner, and Jason and I had that all the way through.
Sure.
And then obviously with the Lincoln Land team, it wasn't just us four either. I mean, we had
Right.
like guys like Frank and Blackwell, and even though some of those guys were a little squirrely, we had guys that all bought in, man. And
Right.
it started with us. We were the nucleus. So
Cool. Well, that's perfect. We got some Frank the Tank quotes here. So
Frank?
Frank
Oh, yeah.
Stefano, who went on to play some pro ball in the Mets organization. Yeah, love
Frank,
that guy.
Frank persevered, man. He had some injuries.
He did, man. He had an
some
interesting
things
college
at,
career.
at Lincoln Land, but you want a guy that just enjoys playing and pitching. I mean, really good athlete, and Frank was a great hitter too.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I mean, Frank still plays on a regular basis. But
Does he really?
Yeah. Frank
men's league?
was a strong left-handed hitter
Yeah.
and had a really good strong arm, big frame, big chest, big
Yeah.
shoulders.
Right.
And Frank, again, I have lunch with Frank all the time. His office is right across from mine, and I get to catch up with him all the time. But glad that Frank was in my life growing up, man. He's a lot of good stories there too.
I love that guy. Here's some Frank quotes. Started playing together on the Pride. They were scrawny, hard-nosed little guys when they were. A little disclaimer before we get rolling here. You're about to hear some ads. They are all from local entities that want to support the baseball community. A lot of these guys have deep connections. We're players themselves, so if you see having a need for any one of these services, please go patronize these guys. Thank you. We are also brought to you by Sheehan and Sheehan Lawyers, located at 1215 South 4th Street, Suite A. They can be contacted at 217-544-0701. I'm talking Pat Sr., Pat Jr., and Willie. They can be contacted for adoption needs, agricultural law, business and commercial law, estate planning, real estate planning, taxation, traffic and minor traffic offenses, personal injury, wrongful death suits. And I grew up with Willie playing baseball on the Southwest Braves. We were state champs. He played high school baseball and soccer at SHG. Pat Jr. was an accomplished baseball player at SHG, SCI, and finally the U of I. We really appreciate the Sheens here. Love this guy. Love this family. Great, great family. So go see these guys. Appreciate you. We are also brought to you by Hurwitz Enterprises. They can be reached at 217-544-4002. Get a hold of them for all your commercial real estate needs. They've been the best in the business since 1978 around here. I'm talking Joe, I'm talking Mimi, I'm talking Mikey, all working there. This is an absolute baseball family. I love the Hurwitz family. Jake, the older brother, played at Illinois College. Henry played with me at Lincoln Land Community College, one of my favorite all-time teammates. And Mikey, the youngest, was a stud at the U of I. Again, love this family. Go support them. Thanks, Hurwitz. We are also brought to you by Josh Badman of Radon Fighters. He can be reached at 217-823-9536. This is a great guy. He's my fellow firefighter. Use post-game spread as a code to save $25 on a radon inspection. If you're buying a home or just want peace of mind for radon in your house, please give Josh a call. He was a standout player at Morrisonville back in the day and then played at SCI for Coach Tor in the early 2000s. Go see Radon Fighters.